from last week as well. Conversations from last week. We had very interesting conversations with very important people. So why don't you check them out? But today, of course, the show continues with much more, and of course, of equal measure as well. Right now, though, let's check out rgk.co.ke. That's our website, where you will also get to see us live. Tukopale, get to interact with us also on YouTube. That is Radio Generation Kenya. On Facebook as well, Radio Generation Kenya. And on X, on Instagram, on TikTok, it's at Radio Gen KE. Twende kazi. The first story on rgk.co.ke. Nearly half of women aged 20 to 48 are overweight. Yeah?
In which part of the world?
This is according to the Health Ministry. This is Kenya. Nearly half of Kenyan women aged 20 to 49 are overweight. The Health Ministry has warned. Let's read this. Kenya is facing a growth health crisis as nearly half of women aged 20 to 49 are now overweight or obese, according to new data from the Ministry of Health. Officials have linked the worrying trend to unhealthy diets and lifestyle choices, warning that it is undermining women's well-being, productivity, and overall contribution to the economy. Public Health Principal Secretary Mary Muthoni said the situation calls for urgent attention. About 45% of women aged 20 to 49 are overweight, even Sema. And to address the rising problem, the government has introduced the Kenya Nutrient Profile Model, a tool that classifies and regulates foods based on their nutrient content. Muthoni explained that this model is part of a broader plan to curb non-communicable diseases such as obesity, which currently account for 39% of deaths in the 39% of deaths in the country. So obesity, big deal, guys, big deal. Tumeambiwa that kwamba, and this is data targeting women, or rather they did this particular statistics, data collection from women in the country between the ages of 20 and 49, and perhaps even more, and they found that that number is not looking good. So obesity,
shida
among women.
Why do they go into details of how this has become a problem? Because something doesn't start as a problem. It starts with an issue that is noticed, and then when it's full blown is when it acquires those qualities of being a problem.
Okay, just because you've asked, you know, if they went deep. Of course they did go deeper, and they're saying that the obesity crisis is not just unique to Kenya. Globally, efforts to tackle the problem have been intensified. On September 25th, the World Health Organization and the United Nations Interagency Task Force on the Prevention and Control of Non-Communicable Diseases recognized 12 countries and 7 non-state actors for introducing innovative measures to combat obesity. There's a doctor who came here last week, and one of the things that actually a couple of doctors came here. And some of the things that they pointed out was the fact that we are not as active as we used to be probably some 10, 20 years ago. We are using more of taxis, more of bodas. We are locking ourselves in our houses, watching movies and eating all these junk foods. We are ordering food online, which obviously is fast food. I doubt many people order ugali online with Skuma Wiki. Yeah, because when you go online, you're probably ordering what? Sausages, chips, burgers, pizzas, and so on and so forth. So this is contributing largely. And then there is also the foods that we cook in our houses, such as the noodles, the spaghetti, you know, zile chakula za haraka haraka, because you don't want to really get into the kitchen and cut kitungu and nyanya and eat the bitter herbs, the kundes and the managus. So you end up eating some stuff that isn't necessarily healthy. Unfortunately, that's where we are.
You're saying you can't order managu?
You can. There are places I'm sure you can order for your managu and kunde, but majority of the folks who go online, they're not going to order managu. They're probably going to order a pizza. They're probably going to order a burger. They're probably going to order a hot dog. The fast foods that are contributing to our health problems. And lots of soda, which contributes to obesity. A lot of those fast foods also, deep fried, have lots of other fatty substances, the cheese, the butter.
Cheese is not unhealthy, neither is butter.
No, it depends the quantity. Yes. See, when they're deep fried, they will contain higher contents of those unhealthy fats.
You know, with the story of unhealthy fats, I haven't fully understood it. Not really. Because there was a time And this was for purely commercial purposes. We were told
Right.
that butter was unhealthy and that margarine is
was
actually
better.
artificial. Yes. Huh? It's one chemical composition away from being plastic, and we're being told that this is something that is healthier. Okay. So when someone then tells me that cheese, which is a derivative of milk,
Yes.
butter, same. Okay,
Ghee.
same. And yet, when you look at countries where the consumption of these things
Yes.
are at an all-time high and peak, I speak of the Netherlands, for instance. For the longest time, the Netherlands has held the. In fact, let me not make the statement. Let me ask you:
Right.
which country on this planet has the tallest people on average?
I'm assuming now it's the
I've already
Netherlands.
told you. Yes,
Yes.
it is actually.
Yes. I wouldn't have known had you not.
And they attribute it to that diet that has dairy products predominantly in it. You see, so, and it's healthy. And if you look at the lifespan of people in that country, it's also fairly admirable. Okay, let's look at, say, the consumption of meat. We had a doctor here with us, and we discussed this.
Yeah.
And he asked me off air because he seems to think that I was against the finding that he spoke of.
Right.
He was not specific. But my point is this: when you tell me that research has been done, I have to ask you, where was the research conducted? Okay? Forget the sample size and all the other scientific jargon that follow it. Where was it conducted?
Like a specific region? Was it done
Yes,
in Africa?
exactly.
Was
Yes,
it
yes,
done in
yes.
Africa? Was it in Kenya?
Okay,
or
which
Uganda?
precisely.
Okay.
Because if you're telling me meat has all those properties that are wrong, I can tell you very many African communities who eat a heck of a lot of meat and do not exhibit this problem that you speak of. Okay? Now, if the research was done outside this country, then you have to tell us where exactly. Then I'll ask the question, what do they feed their cows on? Okay? I am not trying to say that scientific evidence should be ignored. I'm simply trying to say you need to be specific when you tell us about certain things.
Well, look, when we say your diet affects your health, a lot of factors get into that. Number one, when we say diet, what exactly is it? What did you eat? How did you eat it? How was it prepared? What ingredients were in that sahani before you ate it? What else did you add while you were eating it? Did you put? Did you add more salt than required? Did you add more sugar than required? Did you eat processed foods? Because you see, something like wheat, when it is processed, they strip away a lot of the things and they refine it. All right, that's why it comes out white. But essentially, back in the day, we used to eat whole wheat. That means it had all the components, and that's why it appeared brown. But as time went by, we refine more of these particular products, like even maize. Maize and wheat fall in the same WhatsApp group as far as refinement is concerned. So you strip away all the good stuff, and then you leave the unhealthy stuff, right? So that means you're taking higher contents of the unwanted product as opposed to maybe some 30-40 years ago. When we come to oil, what oils are we cooking with? Are we using the fats? Are we using the vegetable oils? Are we using the seed oils? Are we using the fat oil, the animal fats? Yeah. So that means, and again, these are products that are even more refined. Historically, we've been told, there are certain oils that are really good. For example, the seed oils. But recent research has actually shown some seed oils are not healthy. For example, there's rapeseed oil, there's canola oil. That's the same family of oils, just refined differently. And research shows that some of these oils are actually not good, because when they burn, when you get them into the fire, that fire changes their chemical composition and they become something different. Things such as margarine as well, they have issues. Why? Because of, number one, how they were processed, and then number two, how our body also metabolizes them. They bring up complications. Sometimes the complications are not immediate, but over time they accumulate, and then you start getting other problems and issues. So even things like butter, don't eat now. It's recommended you'd rather even eat butter as opposed to having margarine. So different research, different times, and then of course different techniques of also researching.
The problem is the commercial aspect of these things, because sometimes the commercial information is actually a fabrication of the truth.
Sometimes, yes.
Yeah, so the questions have to be asked, okay? Because research makes sense when it's peer reviewed, and all these questions that I am posing are actually responded to, and the research itself responds to it by explaining to you and giving you the details of why they did it, how they did it, the sample size, etc., and all the findings. Because remember, research is conducted because there's a question that you are seeking an answer for.
Yes.
So when that process, you've gone through it, even as you write your report, you should indicate all these things. So research is wonderful, because without research, there are many things we wouldn't know. But you have to, even when the results are there, that's now an opportunity for you to get even further clarity on that particular subject.
Yeah.
Yes.
And what you said actually is true about when research has a commercial aspect to it, because sometimes you'll find even sometimes the researchers are being funded by this commercial element.
Say, for instance, this research is being funded by the pharmaceutical giants. How neutral do you think that research is going to be? Because the person who funds it, there's something they would like to see done. So it'll be the bias. There will be some bias towards what it is that the funder wants. It's always there.
And especially if there, that's why I usually prefer research being undertaken by authorities of a certain field. And when I say authorities, I mean like regulators of a certain field. So, for example, if we had regulators of the pharmaceutical industry saying we'd like to see the effect of medicine A or drug A on the population and on this specific population, that one I think would be a more objective one, as opposed to
if the country funds it, then you are likely to have what you're looking for. But if they seek funding, the funders may also have an interest in the outcome.
Exactly. So sometimes not all governments are objective also when it comes to research, because it depends also on the drive behind that research. Are they doing this because they want to attract certain investors into their country? Of course, the results might be skewed, or at least the findings might favor said investment opportunities.
If you want to understand just how it is research influences our daily lives, look at the polls that we conduct. Okay?
Yeah.
If you read the findings of a poll, they're usually very instructive and very informative, because they go into the details, what they sought to have responded to, who they talked to, the questions they asked, the regions they asked the questions from, sometimes even going as far as the gender, those who responded, the age group, and so forth. So when you segregate it in your response, you suddenly find you can actually determine this age group thought this about this one thought this. The more detailed it is, and also depending on what it is, the design of that particular study.
Exactly.
Because certain designs will give you infinitely more information than others. All these things are good. You know why they are good? It opens your eyes to understanding this simple reality that even when you're told research has been conducted, it then opens an avenue for you now to have some genuine conversation on that particular subject.
Yes.
Yes.
Agreed. Moving on to education and career. Government tightens school verification to block ghost learners.
That they did before in 2016.
Right.
When 1,000 schools were said to be ghost. And
1,000?
Yes, 1,000. No school was mentioned by name. And we are now in 2025, 9 years down the line.
We still do not know a single ghost
school. The
school
schools still exist.
From 2015?
16,
yeah.
So you are telling us what we've heard before. And that brings us to the French saying, the more things change, the more they remain the same.
Yes. So I hope something will be done, because a special report by the Office of the Auditor General revealed that 33 non-existent schools had received funding meant for public institutions. You said in 2016 they were 1,000.
Yep, it was reported that the 1,000 schools had, I think at that particular point in time, I think it was Dr. Matiang'i, I think he was Minister of Education. Yes, they never mentioned. The schools are never mentioned.
Yeah.
Yes, but it looks like these ghosts multiply.
Yeah.
Because, if you throw numbers at us, we really don't know what you're talking about. Even if you just said 10, we still don't know what you're talking about.
Yes.
If you list them, then we have an opportunity to actually see, visit, and people who come from those areas can verify. But as long as you're just talking numbers, in all honesty, you have given us no information.
Yeah. You're just telling us something we know.
You're telling us something we know, but you're not giving us any information that is useful. No. You have to tell us where the names of the school and where they are found, so that the information can be verified.
And the principals in those schools.
Believe me, all those details, the board of management, because all those schools have to have a board of management. And if you mention a region, The people living in that region will know, and they'll say that's cool. There's no such thing in this place. Or yes, we do have such a school.
World Tourism Day draws 83,932 visitors to Kenya's parks. This is according to the Kenya Wildlife Services. At least 83,932 Kenyans visited national parks, reserves, and sanctuaries across the country on World Tourism Day, taking advantage of free entry offered by the Kenya Wildlife Service to celebrate the occasion. The Nairobi Animal Orphanage recorded the highest turnout of 21,485 visitors, followed closely by the National Safari Walk with 20,818. Other popular destinations include the Kisumu Impala Sanctuary, 14,435, Nairobi National Park, 6,431, and Hell's Gate National Park, 3,077. In a statement yesterday, the KWS expressed gratitude to tour operators and local communities for their service. But I hear foreigners were not allowed for free.
But it was meant for Kenyans.
Yeah. I'm just saying that there's some foreigners who had it and they're like, oh, blimey, did you see this? We're allowed to go to the national parks for absolutely free, say 20 cars, only for them to get to the animal orphanage, and then they meet Kipto, who tells them, excuse me, sir, you need to pay $100 to get here and see our lions. And then, of course, McAllister is like, excuse me, your government said that we get in for free. And then Kipto's like, hiyo ni Wakenya peke yao. Nyinyi itapiti mlipe. Kwanza nyinyi ndio mlitupatia mashita tuko nayo kama as a country during colonization. So yeah, so McAllister and his team had to pay, but Kimani and Co got in for free.
Except there was an exception.
Oh really?
Nakuru National Park.
Why Nakuru?
I haven't understood it, but I read it in the papers. Nakuru National Park, you were told freedom hakuna hapo.
For Kenyans, foreigners, you will pay.
Not available.
Oh.
So I don't know why, but that was the information that was given.
Yes.
Yeah.
They did something similar, if not last year, the year before that, where they allowed people again to get into the parks for absolutely free. It's a good thing, so that those who, usually say, manze ningekongana do ningekupeleka national park. Well, I hope you took your person to the national park, eh? If you didn't, then we have a problem. Someone is saying because of, let me see this. Oh, someone has told us, our producer is saying, because of the Brian Odhiambo story for Nakuru. You remember Brian Odhiambo? There's a gentleman who disappeared there.
The fisherman?
Yeah. I think it was early this year. And he has never been found. They do not know his whereabouts. They do not know what happened to him. And I guess because of that was the reason perhaps why Nakuru National Park didn't have a free entry over the weekend. Well, we hope that story by the way gets resolved, because it's dragged on for a while now. It is 2 minutes to the half hour mark. Let me just see what else is on here. You can actually go check it out. 13 killed in Nakuru Nairobi highway crash. That was a story that has been published yesterday. Argentines demand justice at protest against brutal killings of young women. Why don't you check out that story on rgk.co.ke. Also, something else you can check out. AU calls for calm as protests turn violent in Madagascar's capital. Why is this happening in Madagascar? Let me check out real fast. The African Union has expressed concern over violent protests in Madagascar's capital, Antananarivo, that have disrupted socio-economic activities. In a statement on Sunday, AU Commission Chairperson Mahmoud Yusuf said he is closely monitoring the developments and regretted the distraction caused by the unrest. He called for calm and restraint from all parties, urging dialogue as the best path to resolving the crisis. The AU also reaffirmed its commitment to working with the government of Madagascar and the Southern African Development Community to help address the unrest. The protests in Antananarivo mark another period of political and social instability in Madagascar, with demonstrators clashing with authorities and businesses suffering from the disruptions. Yes, hundreds of people poured into the streets early Thursday to express their frustration with repeated blackouts that have left homes and businesses without power for more than 12 hours at a time. Historia Steamer Africa. Surely. Why? Yep. So that is something that is developing, and of course you'll get more of that story on rgk.co.ke. Right now, though, let's see what's happening on the streets of Nairobi. I'll probably also check out a little bit of Mombasa and tell you what's happening there. If anything of manner is happening, I'll definitely let you know. Right now, though, hebu tuangalie barabara.
All right, so check it. Traffic.
Starting with Ngong Road, looking clean at this particular minute. 6:30, surely hapa si expect shida yote. However, the problem that I'm seeing currently is at Pangani, stretching all the way from Survey, Utalii area, getting into Nairobi CBD. Hapo hivyo kumeshikana mbaya tena sana. Where else? Juja Road, I'm seeing a lot of traffic there as you're getting into Isiri, Huruma area. This is back and forth, by the way, both sides of the road. As you're heading towards Moi Air Base, a little bit of traffic there. But after that, it is open kabisa mpaka Isili ndani. No problems reported on that particular area. Jogoo Road looking good right now. Apart from that, stretch at Makadara kameshikana saizi. Also stretch ya Shauri Moyo imeshikana wakati huu. Lunga Road looking fantastico. Enterprise Road looking good. Mombasa Road, no complaints whatsoever as you're heading towards Mlolongo, and also coming from Mlolongo heading to the CBD. Everything looking a-okay at this particular minute. I'm actually shocked. There's not a single stretch of traffic on this road today, which is a good thing. Yeah. Where else? Wayaki Way. Hamuna shida yote, no complaints also coming from that particular area. Let me just jump all the way to Mombasa County. Mombasa mwasemaje nyinyi? Kuna trafiki yote kweli Mombasa Road? I mean, Mombasa kule Mombasani kule katika bara. Hamna lolote la ku-complaini. Yeah, everything is looking fantastical. But if you see something on the roads you think I should know about, why don't you holla at a brother?
Traffic on Radio Generation.
I am holding the Star newspaper. High economic strain forces job cuts and farm closures. This conversation we've had since COVID, the COVID era. Because wakati wa COVID kulikuwa na shida pale because biashara ziko zina operate kama kawaida. And of course a lot of businesses had to adapt. They had to adapt survival tactics. People faced a lot of salary cuts. Others even faced retrenchment. But it looks like the economy city has never recovered from that particular era, at least the Kenyan one. Global economies adapted differently, and of course some of them recovered completely. But hii yetu ya huko Afrika manze shida after shida.
The level of discipline that is required for an economy to recover after something like COVID, the discipline is actually fairly stringent. And the note on which that particular discipline is fashioned out, the example has to be set from the very top. And in our country, that has not been the case. So even as we talk of recovery, here a lot of the things we do by talking.
Yes.
There are people who say things and it is assumed that once it is said, it is done. That is never the case, really. Or an attempt is made at starting it with a lot of fanfare, and that's just about it.
Yeah.
Thereafter, the continuation, that's where the discipline comes in, the follow-through, as we call it, it is scanty. So whatever was envisioned, it never really gets achieved.
Yeah.
Yes.
How Tuk Ride pushed CEO to buy Mayfair Bank. That is on page 6. Hope for HIV funding as Kenya enters deal with US. Okay. Kenya and the US will negotiate and sign a new deal to unlock funding for HIV, malaria, TB and polio by December. Once the agreement is signed, funding will resume in April next year. So walitoa USA alafu inarudi tena. Haya. Big Read, The Black Bar, book serialization part 1. Check it out on page 14 to 15. Human trafficking, puzzle of Kenyans recruited to Russia war deepens after suspect deported. That story is on page 11. Police escape. Law enforcers survive Mogadishu City FC. Scared to reach CAF Championships League second round. And Jepkos Gay starts as favorite at next month's Transylvania 10K in Romania. Yeah. Coach Amonde believes KCB can pull upset. More of these stories inside the Star newspaper. What's on your side, City?
Let's look at the Nation. Horror crash kills 13 on Nakuru Nairobi highway. A scene of a road accident at Keriandusi along the Nakuru-Nairobi highway where 13 passengers on a 14-seater matatu died after a head-on collision with a trailer yesterday. That it's a fast place. The road is good.
Yep.
And it's not really windy. Just a long stretch with very little
corners or turns.
Exactly, yes. So and a slight incline. You think it's slight, but it's actually hilly. So if one is going down, usually you'll find someone try to overtake. There is a climbing lane on that road.
Yes.
So now some people think it's an overtaking lane. And that's where the problem arises. Because you're overtaking and the rightful user is using the climbing lane. The climbing lane is usually used by lorries that are slower than the saloon cars or the other vehicles that carry fewer passengers. Okay. Farmers' fury as tea bonuses shrink across regions. Farmers have raised concerns over reduced earnings and wide across the 77 factories managed by the Kenya Tea Development Agency. Stories on page 7. Okay. There's a serialization of a book called The Fight for Order by Justin Muturi. The president was scared and ignored investors, American investors. This one we will look at and will determine what is that he's saying.
Yep.
Tourism, coast eyes more visitors and cultural religion attractions. Stakeholders are increasingly diversifying beyond the traditional sand and sea. Bang in the middle of the paper, turf wars. Executive has often attacked judiciary over court orders. Ruto's battle, new battle on Ruto policies. This is a story on page 4 and 5. Okay, then in the Standard, the Standard tends to have one or just two stories. The headline: silent suicide epidemic. At least 462 people died by suicide between June and August this year. An average of 5 lives lost every day. The deaths cutting across counties and age groups reveal a deepening national crisis. Mental health experts are now urging the government to decriminalize attempted suicide and focus instead on providing care and support for those in distress. This is a story on page 8 and 9. Then bang in the middle of the paper, bandits in uniform. Despite having more police units and heightened security than any other region, is that really true? Have these people been to Uganda? Have they been to Rwanda?
Good question.
The North Rift remains ravaged by bandit attacks that drain life and condemns residents to endless suffering. Now the arrest in Nairobi of officers from the Police and Prisons Department has exposed a criminal syndicate, confirming the grim truth. Those entrusted to protect Kenyans are the very ones abetting castle rustling for illicit profit on page 4. There is a story here of 4 gentlemen, and they even named. One is an assistant superintendent of prisons in Turkana, another in Turkana Police Headquarters, and the corporal. Then there's also a PC who is armor central firearms store in industrial area.
By PC we mean police constable?
Yes.
Okay.
Another one is police constable, storeman in industrial area. So these fellows, according to this article, we are supposed to believe that these are the people who are responsible for all the mayhem we're seeing in the North Rift. I do not buy that story for a single second.
Why?
The number of firearms that are reportedly proliferated, if you just look at the incidences and take the view that these are people who've even attacked police squadrons and killed them, they didn't have 3 or 4 guns or even 10. They were armed as though it was a military operation.
Yes.
We have a porous border in Pokot. Karamajong borders Pokot. Karamajong, for a very, very long time, was an area in Uganda from the time of Idi Amin where firearms proliferated freely and easily. And people were able to get guns easily and even buy them. Okay? These fellows may have been responsible for some deal which they were involved in. But we have heard and we have read of how people sell cows to buy firearms. If they were buying at the rate at which we hear of conflicts, the list of guns and ammunition that we have, by now somebody would have alerted it, because those things are bought and they're placed there for a very specific purpose and they are accounted for. These issues that we have in the North Rift have existed. All these fellows look like they're 40 years and below. So you're telling me that it's when these guys got into these positions,
yes,
that these things are no. This story has to be more complete than this. The history of banditry in that region has been very long, from the previous century.
But let me ask you, why has it been like that for decades? Like, is it because of the politics of the area?
No, it's not.
Are the politicians fueling it?
It is not one thing.
Because I've had it's politicians actually who fuel the violence.
It is never one thing. It is never one thing.
Because they are benefiting from the banditry. The cows, the whatever animals being stolen from neighboring communities, they actually are the ones funding that business. And I hear it's a very big business as far as the abattoirs of the area are concerned, and also a little bit probably a lot to do with also the Kenya Meat Commission, KMC.
The thing is this: the business angle of banditry is a fairly recent thing. Cattle rustling existed. One could call it a cultural sport. And it occurred during seasons of circumcision, where the rites of passage, where you are now in a position to get married, then you would need cows to pay the bride price.
Right.
That was really why this thing took place. Or people fighting over grazing land or water, and someone takes someone's cattle. That the business angle that we speak of, the commercial angle, wasn't quite there. This one is recent. When I say recent, it is more of a 21st century thing, the big scale on which we keep speaking of. But before, it was the skirmishes. It was not, it's something that pastoral communities exhibit. If you were northeastern part of the country, it was the same problem.
Yeah.
But embedded in this problem was the foundation of neglect that these two regions had from the time prior to independence.
Yes.
So many people did not go to school. And many felt they did not need to because they could survive and live.
Yeah.
Now, in areas where you find education has proliferated and people have actually seen the benefits, people left that life and chose another. You will find that in places where people have actually taken the matter of education seriously, like in the northeastern, these stories are getting fewer and fewer and fewer. There are flare-ups every now and then. Grazing grounds, water, those in many cases are fueled by politicians, because sometimes those incidents occur when there's a by-election or there's an election around the corner, or somebody has made some scathing attack about a certain community, and these are people, or somebody raided someone's cattle and these fellows retaliate. If you follow the stories in detail, you will find there are fundamental differences. What we are referring to is cattle rustling for profit. That is a completely different matter altogether. And to say that these four and others are the ones who will be responsible for something that took place from the previous years. If these guys are probably 40, let's give them 40.
Yeah.
We're in 2025. 25 years ago, these fellows were 15 years old.
Okay.
They had not even finished school.
Right.
Okay.
However, the bandits in that area sometimes are teenagers,
But
even younger.
That's the point. They are not in school. And they learn to look after cows with guns. If you go to Tana River,
Yes.
there's a community I know because I used to do some business in Tana River called the Wardei. This is in the early 2000s. Is it early? Yeah, early 2000. They were herding cows with the AK-47s. And that's why you ask, how is Kenya? You realize, okay, the order of reality is a bit different here. I'm simply saying this. It's a complex story.
Yes.
And it involves very many things. These fellows may have had their own ring, but these are not the fellows who are the heart of the problem that we have in those areas.
Okay.
They are most definitively and definitely not. No.
All right. Are you done with the paper?
I am done.
That specific one? So I was... You're telling me something about our economic strain forces, job cuts, and farm. So when are we going to recover from this whole issue of our economy performing really badly? Because businesses mefungwa. We even have media houses that have been shut completely. Like people are told, go home, see you another day.
Yes.
Or maybe see you never.
And the numbers are growing.
I have a friend who was working for a company along Mombasa Road, sehemu za Mavoko. It was a textile in the company where they used to sew things together. And now that, I mean, a lot of fabrics.
EPZ?
Not EPZ, but it's along that.
Walikuwa wanashona uniform.
Walikuwa wanashona uniforms. Some of the t-shirts that we're finding in the supermarkets, and they're branded, foreign names. They actually been made here. Hapa Mavoko too. That industry was shut down. That particular factory was shut, and mwenyewe akahamisha mashine zake zote, mitambo akazipeleka. I think they went either to Tanzania or Uganda.
In the COVID era 2020 2021, that was the time when President Uhuru.
Yes.
There's something President Uhuru did.
Locked down the country.
No, the locking down was the world over. It wasn't just here, but he actually reduced taxes. Something very interesting happened when he did that. Whatever it is that we were collecting was literally able to meet our needs then. In fact, strangely enough, they collected what they had targeted. Strangely enough.
After they reduced the taxes.
Yes, yes. When you reduce taxes, one of the things you actually do is people have more money in their hands. It's not really complicated. Okay? So, if you're asking whether it is possible for us to get out of this, yes, it is possible. It is very, very possible. But it's something that requires a determined mind that also leads by example. You cannot have senior members of a cabinet in some conspicuous consumption and some vulgar consumption right out in the open. When you're talking austerity to other people, it will not make sense. It will not make sense. The amount of money that it takes to buy new cars and what have you, in terms of what our revenue is, it's minuscule. But the optics are bad. Because essentially you are telling the population that other people are not facing the same problem that them, they're living okay. And people understand it's their taxes that buy that. So they will be upset. We are not in a unique position. This COVID problem hit the whole world.
True.
If people have recovered from it, the question is, what have they done? If we can't come up with our own ideas, why don't we look at other people and what they have done and see how they've come out of it?
Yeah.
Yes.
I wish we had someone to benchmark that for us. But we also have the data. It's there, it's available, it's online. You will see companies that have recovered. Countries also that have done specific things to ensure that the industries within their territory have recovered. So while we are still facing closures 5 years after COVID-19, for me, I don't get it. I don't.
It is a lot more, let me put it this way.
Yes.
The demands to get back to normalcy is a lot more difficult than it would appear.
Yes.
And that, I think, is what the government is struggling with right now. Yes.
Human trafficking, puzzle of Kenyans recruited to Russia war depends after suspect deported. So there's a guy I saw on YouTube. He was being interviewed by a media house. I can't remember which one, but he said that he had been taken to Russia. He went to Russia as a tourist. Now, Siko, I wish ningekuwa show video, and perhaps maybe you've seen it, I don't know. But if you look at this guy, and I am not profiling or judging anyone, but
because you are, but go on.
He didn't look like a tourist. You know, the people.
How do tourists look like exactly?
A tourist, there's kuna vile tourist tukaa tu city.
Wanakaa vipi?
City, to get into details. Nimesema tu itatokeza ni kama na profile jamaa, lakini jamaa hakuwa anakaa kama tourist. So especially tourist wa kwenda Russia. Angetuambia ni tourist wa kwenda Samburu Game Reserve.
So you're telling me that you have an idea of what tourists who go to Russia should look like?
Exactly. So this fellow, he's a Kenyan. He went to Russia apparently as a tourist. Then when he got to Russia, the travel agent, the Russian travel agent who received him then, did whatever he did with him, on the day he was supposed to leave, like a day or two before he was supposed to leave, the Russian guy asked him, so bro, you like Russia? Yeah. Would you like to work for the Russian, for Russia, or rather in Russia? And the guy said, yeah, sure, why not? I mean, if the opportunity arises, I'll definitely take it. And without asking questions, CT akaambua ndio makaratasi, sign hapa, leta passport yako niende nikakuchukulia visa ya kufanya kazi hapa hivi. And the guy gladly signed. Within minutes he gave out his details na he waited. And that is how he was recruited, apparently, from his story. That is how he was recruited into the Russian army. And then taken to the front line in Russia, Ukraine, to fight the Russia-Ukraine war.
Was he trained?
Nothing.
So
of course he was trained. He was trained how to hold weapons. But he says that, I can't remember how long it was, but it was a very short training. It was just enough for him to know how to aim, fire a gun. And then when he got to the front line, he somehow managed to escape.
Did he speak Russian?
Of course not. He's a tourist.
Well, I'm asking all these questions because you're joining an army. Those people
I'm telling you. So now this is what happened. After that, when he got to the front line, somehow managed to escape and went to the Ukrainian side and told them, yo guys, mimi naitwa nani, nimetoka Kenya, nimeletwa kwa hivi vita, mimi hata sielewi. So here I am. And that's how he was deported back to no, he was being detained in Ukraine at the time of the interview. And this is an interview from last week, so I'm assuming either he's still there or now he's been processed to come back to Kenya. Then other folks came out, a lot of them saying that they have been recruited right here in Kenya by some unscrupulous folks, and one of the folks actually was arrested. Some folks were in Ruiru, I think it was, I could be wrong on the location, but they were here in Kenya. Kwa nyumba wamewekwa tu mali, some 20 to 30 folks waiting to go to Russia to fight the Ukrainian war. Very young men, looking strong and healthy, just waiting to go and fight someone else's war.
Was he paid?
This recruiter?
Yes, the
Kenyan one.
The non-tourist looking fellow whom you mentioned.
He didn't mention anything to do with remuneration or payments or any kind of compensation.
You see
the interview.
You see a Kenyan accepting a job and they have not discussed money.
Lakini bro, si unaweza niambia buda kuja ufanye kazi, unataka how much? Nikwambia mimi nataka 30,000 per month, niambia sawa. Done. Sign up at 30k. Aya, tuende pale. Maybe he didn't know. Maybe he knew. Maybe it was something that he discussed.
On page 6 of The Nation,
yes,
the Standard rather, there is a story of a deported Russian who they say mocked Kenyans and squeezed money out of them. This fellow apparently had one of these apps that supposedly lend people money. Okay,
a digital lender.
Yeah, and his name is Mikhail Lyapin. Okay,
Mikhail Lyapin.
Yes, so there's figured this guy. It's best he goes back wherever he had come from.
Right.
The story goes on, but the question I want to ask is, of what benefit is it for you to come all this way to come and recruit Kenyans? What is it that you want to portray? You're telling me Russia doesn't have enough people who can fight their war?
But also, to be honest and to be fair to this conversation, we have had people being recruited into the Royal Marines in the UK. We have Kenyans being recruited into the US Marines.
The Kenyans were recruited into the US Marines are not under these circumstances.
Yeah.
It is out in the open. Their papers are in order. And that is why they can actually serve in the military.
Yes.
Because we are part of the Commonwealth, it is a practice that has been there for the longest time. Kenyans are not the only people who are in Her Majesty's army.
Yes.
All those former colonies and so forth have people who join their military. Russia did not have a colony. So the relationship that you're speaking of, they do not have. So,
but it doesn't have to. America didn't colonize us.
No, you gave an example.
Yes.
And I told you, those who go to America and have their papers in order, you can join. It's like any other job that you can actually apply for and get.
The procedure for going to America, for example, to join the US Army, because I know one or two people who've done it, you apply for a visa to go to the US, kawaida too. And of course, you apply for a work visa. Then when you get to America, one of the very many job opportunities available to you are joining the Marines, the US Marines. So you could be a chef, you could be a doctor, you could be whatever. And you could also be a Marine officer. So you apply for recruitment. They call you, you go for the interview, and you get in. Same as the UK. Kwanza kuna jamaa moja on YouTube, I'm forgetting his name. He explained the process of joining the Royal Force, the Royal Marines or whatever. And he said, him kwanza alienda UK kama mwanafunzi. Akafika UK, akamaliza masomo yake. Then he applied for a work visa. Then he was given that work visa. And he worked as a chef in very many restaurants for a while. Then he decided, you know what? I actually want to join the army. And he applied to the army, and he joined the army as a chef in the army, but of course went for basic training. In the Russian case, perhaps it's a similar process. You can
there's nothing similar about this process.
You can apply to go to Russia to work.
There is nothing similar about this process.
Once you start working,
by your own example, somebody has gone to work. It is something you can even see the progression is transparent. This one,
when you go to Russia to work,
no.
There's
this
an
person went as a tourist chief.
Yes,
how many people do you know who go to Russia to study? And no.
His process was
Paul,
a bit different.
Paul,
yeah.
Paul,
I mean,
Paul. You're stretching this thing.
No. What I'm saying is, I'm not saying that what Russia has done to him, or the recruiters in Russia, they did something okay or
it's not recruiters. It is one person who's been mentioned here.
So this particular person that I'm
is there a website you can go to which tells you how to join the Russian army? Is there?
Can we ask the AI?
No, you are the one who talks to your phone. You ask your phone.
Let me ask it. CT. Is there a website I can visit to be recruited into the Russian army? Yeah, actually there is. How to apply for the Russian army online. There are very many links you can check out here that will lead you to...
You didn't ask a specific question. How to apply as a foreigner.
Okay.
As a non-Russian.
How to apply to the Russian army as a foreigner. Yes, so there's www.printfriendly.com. New regulations for foreign applicants into the Russian armed forces. So there is a procedure. If you just search vizuri sana, utapata procedures.
Then why is it that we have this story then?
So, because I don't think there's someone who's volunteered to go and fight the Russian war.
So why would there be someone who is recruited? Because this fellow was recruited.
Yes.
Why is there someone recruiting when there's an easy process? Why don't we hear of them holding a symposium to come and tell people there are job offers in Russia, you can join the army? Why?
I won't answer for them. I won't hold a brief for them because I don't know why they don't do it or they haven't done it. However, what I'm trying to do is try and guess how this would happen. You've gone to Russia as a student. You've probably completed your studies. And they tell you, before you go back to your country, if you do not mind, there's an opportunity here. And the opportunity is joining the Russian army. Are you open to it? And then you say yes. Then they recruit you. Or perhaps they dupe you like some of these dubious fellows. They tell you, they ask you, would you like to work in Russia? And in your mind, you're thinking, because I've done engineering, I'm probably going to get an engineering gig. Or because I've done music, I'm going to get, an entertainment gig. Only for you to sign papers because they are probably in Russian. Or the fine print is very fine and you can't see it. Then after you've signed, here are your boots, here's your training gun, tupatane kwa field. Unauliza, wait a minute, I thought I was here to do economics, and you're told no, you have just signed to join the Russian army. I'm assuming that is what happens. I've not been there.
People join the American military even as technicians, engineers, and what have you.
But it's very clear.
It is very clear, and it's out in the open. The issue here is, if it is as clear as we are suggesting, why isn't it clearer for everybody? Why is somebody being arrested for doing that? Why is someone complaining that they didn't know what they signed for?
Good question. So according to page 11 on the Star, puzzle of Kenyans fighting Russia-Ukraine war depends. Lawyer says a Kenyan company is in a contract to recruit ex-military officers. Now they've even gone... They've actually gone granular, like you like to say, to military officers, ex-military officers, because they don't want to train anybody. Now, the mystery of how Kenyans are being recruited in the front line of the Russia-Ukraine war has deepened after the Russian embassy in Nairobi denied involvement of its nationals in the recruitment ring. The embassy, in a press release, denied any links to the recruitment, saying it had not received any official information from Kenyan authorities regarding any claims against Mikhail Layapin or his activities. This is the guy you were talking about, yeah? Yes, so Foreign Affairs PS Korir Sing'oei, when he appeared before the National Assembly Defense Intelligence and Foreign Relations Committee in Parliament, had some of these questions to answer. Yes, so it's happening. If you've been recruited to the Russia-Ukraine war, please let us know. Meanwhile, a very good morning to Michael Olande. Good morning, Team RG. New week, new things. Yes. Eunice Okelo. Good morning, Team Kubwa. Good morning, Eunice. Robert amesema good morning Mbuvi NCT, tuned in from Kabarak in Nakuru. Sone Tabariako, hello folks. Luis Rudasingwa, good morning team. Ricardo Mariera, good morning kings and queens. Another thing that many that may contribute to women being overweight is some of the family planning that they use. My 2 cents, Kitengela iko locked. Ni kweli sana Ricardo, hapo umedunga point. Let's get into the news with Winnie Maganga. Then when we return, of course, we tell you what's happening in the next hour.
Radio generation, the sound is fine. Pump it up, turn it high all the time. Let the music move you, let's sway. Radio G's got your jam all day.
Radio Generation, the home of urban soul. This is the Radio Generation News.
Good morning, I'm Winnie Maganga. 13 people died on the spot in a road crash on Sunday afternoon near Kikopey, Gilgil along the Nakuru-Nairobi highway. According to Nakuru County Police Commander Emmanuel Opuru, they were in a 14-passenger vehicle headed to Nakuru when it collided head-on with a semi-trailer truck. Among those injured are 2 children. According to reports, they had hired the matatu from Nairobi to head for a family function.
Mwishowe nikaona sasa lagu lile ningefanya ni kurusha gari yangu chini. Na hata ukiangalia gari yangu hapa imefanya kuguzwa na hiyo matatu. Nilipoweka gari yangu kando nikajaribu kufuja kioo, hata kale katoto kamoja tumeweka kwa gari pale ndio kale. Nimeumia hapo kwa mkono niki.
This area is a black spot, and we also wanted to call upon Kenya to come up with a temporary measure.
Police in Tot, Elgeyo Marakwet County have received 9 firearms and 120 rounds of ammunition voluntarily surrendered by members of the community. The whole, handed over during the weekend, included 8 AK-47 rifles and G3 rifle. Authorities say the surrender was made possible through the support of local peace community in Aror, Chemusam, and Mokoro locations. The weapons and ammunition have since been secured as part of the ongoing disarmament exercise, which so far has seen the recovery of 249 illegal firearms. Former Chief Justice David Maraga has declared he will not bow to pressure to abandon his 2027 presidential bid. The ex-CJ insists he's ready to challenge President William Ruto at the ballot. Maraga, who spoke in Mombasa County during a meeting with the United Green Movement Party officials, accused the government of eroding constitutional values, protecting impunity, and failing Kenyans in the fight against corruption.
We are in bad shape. Ni nini mimi nataka kufanya? My vision is to reset, restore, and rebuild Kenya under ukatiba. That is my philosophy. Ukatiba, constitutionalism. Watu wengine wameniuliza ati philosophy yako ni gani? Nikawaambia yangu ni ukatiba. Constitutionalism na mimi ni mukatiba. Mumeelewa hivyo? Hiyo ni kusema tufanye kazi kulingana na katiba yetu.
Public Service CS Geoffrey Ruku has accused the former President Uhuru Kenyatta of inciting Kenyans against the current administration. Speaking during a public engagement forum in Mbeere North, Ruku stated that while the former head of state is permitted to express his views and offer advice to the sitting president, he should refrain from engaging in active or partisan politics. The CS urged Kenyatta to emulate his predecessors, the late Daniel Arap Moi and Mwai Kibaki, by acting as a statesman and showing respect for those currently in office.
Tunaheshimu Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta, tunajua ni rais, amehudumu miaka 10 kama kiongozi wa taifa. Yale ambayo sheria inamruhusu kufanya ni kutoa mawaidha kwa rais wa jamhuri William Ruto, lakini kusimama kumpiga vita ya kisiasa, jameni, hiyo sio jambo ambalo ni mzuri kwa taifa yetu ya Kenya.
Correctional Services Principal Secretary Salome Biako has announced that the government will place all inmates under the Social Health Authority by the end of the year. The move is in a bid to curb the spread of diseases in correctional facilities. Biako noted that sexual offenders account for nearly 40% of the prison population, hence the need for urgent action. Speaking in Meru on Sunday, Biako said the high number of inmates jailed for sexual offences has fueled overcrowding and created health challenges within the prison system.
Rais aliposikia hivyo, one of the things alisema ni kuwa tukue na registration of SHA kwa prisons, na hiyo ni kazi tunafanya ndio angalau watu wangu wapate matibabu. Sasa tuko na hiyo program tunaenda kumalizia. By end of this year tutamalizia, tutaregister kila mtu kwa SHA ndio angalau apate matibabu.
And that's the truth on Radio Generation. Good morning, I'm Winnie Maganga.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of Radio Generation. Radio Generation assumes no responsibility or liability for the interviewee's views. This is Radio Generation. In the beginning, there was morning radio. But now there is Radio Generation's The People's Breakfast, curious and bold, getting facts from the shadows.
That's what it is.
Now, as the city wakes and secrets stir, a bright new voice shines. The People's Breakfast. Your morning, your voice, your journey. Good morning.
Good morning, my neighbor.
Welcome to the home of hard truths and bold insights, Radio Generation.
A very good morning to you. Welcome back to Radio Generation 88.8 in Nairobi, 90.7 in Mombasa. My name is Mungala Mbuvi and City Muga is in studio. Thank you so much for coming through and for tuning in. Tuonana salamu zenyu na tunaendelea kusema tutazisoma mnavyo zileta. But right now though, in this particular second hour, we want to focus on something that we saw on the front page of the Star newspaper. And this is hope for funding, hope for HIV funding as Kenya enters deal with US. What does this mean? Kenya and the US will negotiate and sign a new deal to unlock funding for HIV, malaria, tuberculosis, and polio by December. Once the agreement is signed, funding will resume in April next year. The US said in its new strategy known as America First Global Health Strategy, the strategy will guide all health funding by the US across the world henceforth. It was published by US Secretary of State Marco Rubio last week. City, early this year, America came out and said, you know, hii maneno ya kutupatia pesa kila wakati bwana. It's been decades down the line na bado hamjapata solutions to your own problems. And now they're saying that they're going to bring back the funding. Why is it that decades later we are still struggling? We're still struggling with our own problems, waiting for outside help. Decades later, a whole continent, 54 countries, 1 billion people plus.
What exactly do you find surprising?
Because we have the knowledge, we have the universities, we have the research centers to actually do what needs to be done. And especially on the funding part, the reason why we need this money is because we don't have the money ourselves. Ama shida iko wapi? So our watu wanatupatianga drugs sawa sawa. Even condoms we get them from China. Okay, fine. But surely City,
we do manufacture condoms in this country.
Exactly. So why do we depend on foreign aid to ensure that we have enough supply? Malaria drugs. Why do we depend on funding and supplies to ensure that we have enough of those particular resources? Why can't we? It's been 30, 40, 50, 60 years plus. We've had malaria actually from time immemorial.
We have, but you see, one of the things that these so-called advanced nations understand is something called control. And they set up institutions that focus on research on health and all the matters pertaining to it. They understand the sort of microbes that cause all manner of diseases. They also understand diseases that are transferable either through insects.
Who?
These people.
These people are who? Us or
I started by saying these countries that we call the developed world create institutions that conduct research on diseases. And the idea is to research on almost any disease known to mankind. And I said diseases that are transferable either by insects or by human beings to human beings. And with good reason. For the longest time, America has been the immigration destination for very many parts of the world. Now, if it's a disease that lives inside a human being, then it also means that when you go to that country, you may very likely go with it. And you may very well transfer it to the people who already live there. So it is important. But also, remember, when America has sought to expand its influence across the world, and have gone to places where they had previously not gone, if you're talking about Cambodia, if you're talking about Vietnam, if you're talking about the incursion into the Middle East, when you live in that country for a long period of time because of that war situation, the things that affect the natives of that country will inevitably affect you.
Yeah.
There's no malaria to speak of in most of America unless you're in areas like Florida where they have marshland and things like that.
The Everglades.
Yes, so when you study and understand diseases, it is more for your protection than any other reason. The countries within whose borders you conduct your research will benefit as a result of it. But the research is not for the benefit of that country primarily. No. That is as a by the way. It is for your own benefit.
Yeah.
And that is why when you talk about, say, Center for Disease Control, CDC, one of the things that you find is that they do have branches of that organization heading the very same thing they do in the US in very many parts of the world.
Yes.
Okay?
We even have one here in Kenya. It's at Kemi, right?
We have a very big one here in Kenya. And they have centers. There's a big center in Kisumu that now conducts research on malaria. And that question has been asked. These people have been here studying malaria all this. Are you saying that all this time they've not understood what to do with malaria? The thing about the malaria parasite, it's a living organism. And like all living organisms, it wants to continue living. And the only way it lives is when it mutates. You try to kill it. It will try to ensure that it adapts to whatever it is you're using to kill it. So the truth is that the research never really comes on that. Not really. Okay. Now, if you talk about funding that American government, American people give to the rest of the world, it is approximately 1% of the GDP.
Yeah.
Okay? It's not some huge colossal amount, but if you know the size of the GDP, then that 1% is a huge amount. Okay? It is in the billions, the hundreds of billions of Kenyan shillings.
Yes.
It's a great deal of money. HIV, everything that has been said about it, there are those of the school of thought that it was incubated somewhere in the Congo, transferred by primates to human beings. Interesting story that, because if that were the case, then very many people in that region by now should have probably died off. They haven't. Okay? There is the theory that, well, let's call it homespun yarns, that this thing was created in a lab. Well, it's the same theory that followed COVID, is it not?
It is.
Yes. Now, again, if you look at the tale that I told you at the beginning about people seeking to protect themselves, if people come into your country, there's nowhere on their forehead it indicates they're HIV positive or they're carrying the virus, even if they don't know their status. So you want to research so that you understand this virus better than you did before. Okay?
Yeah.
Again, conspiracy theories revolve around these things. Part of the way you influence a country is by assisting them. When you assist them, in many ways than one.
Soft power.
Yes. You then get to influence them because they depend on you. The dependence is not something that they themselves do not want. It's important. If you help people stand on their own 2 feet, then they depend on you less. Okay? The problem isn't the help that we get. The problem is what we do with the help that we get. Because for many Kenyans who and the world where they receive foreign funding, there are a good number, not the majority, there are a good number of people who actually believe that it's an opportunity for them to get free money. And when Kenyans refer to free money, it means money that is intended for one thing and they divert it to uses other than the ones for which it was intended. And it is a growing sport. Okay? So you actually find that the thing that was supposed to be achieved very rarely actually get achieved. Now, HIV, the Presidential Emergency Fund, that was created during George Bush II's time, that was one of the biggest initiatives that America has ever had. In fact, in terms of health initiatives that help people on the planet, I do not know of anything that has had as big an effect as that. For this simple reason. The funding brought in research, they funded research into just understanding the behaviors of people and how it is people responded to the acquisition or the infection of HIV. Then they brought in care and treatment when ARVs came in, that is the antiretrovirals. Now, with that also came medication for opportunistic diseases. So, HIV funding more or less took care of very many problems for you. Just that one thing. But they also ensured that they built capacity. So over that period of time, it was 20 years in total, really.
Yeah.
A lot that ordinarily would not have changed. Okay? The health sector changed enormously. Then, if you leave PEPFAR aside, the US government would give the Ministry of Health a grant, direct grant, to support its health initiatives in TB, in malaria, and such things. Why? Because it was found that these things were in abundance in very many parts of the country, and especially among the economically disadvantaged populations of the country. Again, soft power, as you call it. All right? That same funding also made it possible for people to get trained outside the country, probably in the US. Put it this way, it did very many positive things. And people who ordinarily might not have lived, people who ordinarily might not have even continued their lives to see their children grow up, would never have done so. So in instances, I would argue that that particular help was resurrecting the dead. If you worked in that field as I did, there'll be many cases and instances where you remember individuals who, when you first saw them, you were surprised that person was talking.
Yeah.
Because the skin was actually hanging on the bone. White eyes, white.
Okay, it sounds funny, but yeah.
Yes, it does. And you see that person a couple of months later, you don't recognize him. It's the voice that you remember. I've heard this voice before. But the ARVs actually were working. What am I trying to say? It was, in my opinion,
yes,
one of the most useful and one of the best initiatives that I've actually ever seen a foreign country provide.
There's I was listening to watching a conversation on one of the WhatsApp groups that I belong to. Someone posted some statistics that say that now Meru County is leading in new HIV infections. And I was like, okay, Meru. And of course, people were giving their own opinions that, Meru, people now consume a lot of miraa, so that is why, it has promoted the promiscuity in Nini. Then someone else came out and said, I don't trust these results. Yeah. And then someone else in the same group came and asked, so you trusted when they said, Nyanza has got high HIV infections as opposed to now they're saying Meru has high infections. And of course, his last name or the last names of these individuals were betraying them. But what the concept of this conversation, or the part of this conversation I want us to extract, is the fact that if indeed it is true that Meru is leading in new infections, what has brought about the change in the statistics? Could it be, and someone actually did allude to this theory in that particular group, could it be because perhaps in the past these results had been manipulated for a very long time, so that funding can be channeled to a specific area, aka Nyanza?
Well, tell me, since you are the one who's proposing that particular thought process, how would that be done?
I was just in the... Well, maybe through the leadership. Because a lot of...
And which leadership are you referring to here?
The leadership of the people conducting the research. It could be the NGOs, it could be government entities, it could be county government entities, it could be private individuals, I'm not sure. But someone who was in charge of receiving this money, conducting this research. You remember what we said in the first hour, that sometimes research can be skewed or manipulated to favor a specific agenda. And in this case, agenda here is money, funding, the aid that is being received in this area. Because if we're being honest, me from what I saw, a lot of funding was around this area because isn't these spaces ziko na a lot of malaria, ziko na a lot of HIV, ziko na a lot of other venereal diseases.
When it came to the issues of malaria, why was the same question not asked?
I will focus on the conversation I saw.
No. I am having the conversation that you've mentioned. The deaths that arose as a result of the HIV infection preceded the research and PEPFAR. People had a name for the disease in Uganda. They called it Slim.
Slim?
Yes, because...
This is now HIV?
Yes, because people before dying lost weight. They were emaciated. In Luoland, it was called Chira, meaning it was like a curse. They couldn't understand it. Long before ARVs came, long before PEPFAR, people had been dying in large numbers. Yes. So, if somebody understands and knows the history of it, what ARVs came to do and the research was to try and stem a tide that was already in existence. So unless you're going to say that the numbers were fabricated to give the impression that these people were actually not dying, but it was given so that the funding could come, that unfortunately you'd have to really work hard to prove your case if that is the assertion that you began the discussion with. Homesteads were devoid of people. Children became heads of families. Heads of families. In many instances, it was grandmothers, not even grandfathers. Grandmothers were looking after children. 17, 18-year-olds were looking after children. Children were looking after children, in short. Many places, there were areas where I remember once with a colleague of mine, and he saw this lovely empty spot, a large expanse, and it had drained, the grass was green. He said, I now understand why people in this region are good at football. And I asked him why. He said, you have so many football pitches. I said, that's not a football pitch. He said, really? I said, no. There were homesteads there. Over time, the adults died. And those houses just collapsed over time. So you're seeing an empty space. It's empty, yes, but there were homesteads there at some point or the other. Those people have died, and they've died in large numbers. Sometimes when people ask questions in an attempt to seek and to find an answer, it is good that they ask, because a response can then be given. It is virtually impossible to fabricate the number of deaths, because this is something that you can determine by simply going to a mortuary. And the numbers are not difficult to figure out. Yes.
So why then were the numbers high in Nyanza as opposed to other places?
Some of them were cultural reasons.
Such as?
Wife inheritance. And then there was the issue of multiple partners. And then, with multiple partners, came the advent of, it's truly amazing, the sequencing of partners and how it is a network was then created. Research is on which found it out, because they were asking, how does this happen? And they would give the example of somebody is HIV positive, one person, it's a man, let's say. He has a wife and he has a girlfriend. Okay? He has unprotected sex with both. This girlfriend also has
another boyfriend.
Yes. And that boyfriend has another girlfriend.
And a wife.
I think you get my point. So it is very, very possible for very many people to be infected from one source. So over time, it spreads. Because none of these tell the other who it is that they're having sex with.
They're just doing it.
Yes, exactly. Now, wife inheritance became a problem when HIV came, in the sense that people the wife inheritance was a culture that was there before.
Yes.
And the understanding was the widow needs to be looked after, and usually the inheritance was from a relative of the man who had passed away. But now, when the death of that person was under this mystery of Chira, this person was just sick, somebody cursed him, he just grew thin and died. Even when it became known it was HIV, people preferred to say there's nothing like HIV. So more and more people got in this practice, and more people died. Then there was research done among the fisher folk. Fisher folk travel to fish. So there'll be many landing places along the beaches of Lake Victoria, around the areas of Nyanza and beyond. Some would even go as far as Uganda, depending on the fishing season when fish could be found. In each of these places, they had a lady friend.
Someone to provide comfort in that locality.
Precisely. And when he left, she was not lonely.
She also had someone else. Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
Then there was a phrase that we came to understand called jaboya. The women who traded in fish, the way you got priority to get fish to sell, it's not free, was if you had a sleeping partner among the fishermen.
If you had the priority to do what now?
To buy fish.
The
fish lands, those who have priority are the ones, the guy who owns the boat, the man who is in charge of that fishing particular enterprise will give you priority if you sleep with them. but you're not the only one who's sleeping with them.
Because he knows he has 100 fish, for example. So he will give Adhiambo 20, sleep with Adhiambo. Give Anyango 30, sleep with Anyango. Then sleep with God knows where. Atieno. And the remaining fish. So literally that's how.
Yes, and that pattern repeats itself because you're not the only fisherman. So within a very short time, very many people got infected, and it kept spreading. So among those who were sexually active, the reason why grandmothers were alive, many of them were not sexually active, so the likelihood of being infected was next to zero.
Okay.
I'm giving a synopsis of the situation because one found that the prevalence of HIV, meaning the number of people infected vis-a-vis the population, was much higher among the fisher folk and the communities who lived around the lake. Much, much higher. Now, when you talk of incidences, an incidence is just a new infection. Now, it is measured against a similar study in that area when those new infections were not there. So if the new infections have arisen, let's say for every 10 people you test, 3 years ago for every 10 people you tested, you found one person was HIV positive. Now you test and you find 4. You said the number of new infections has increased. I'm not even going scientific because you can actually test and you can tell that's a new infection. I'm just looking at how it is you go about the process and how you determine. It means a research was conducted and they found that for every population that they tested, there were more people within that population who are now testing HIV positive. Now, one of the things that is also not spoken of is the virus has an incubation period. It was up to even 15 years where before it could manifest. So somebody could have been HIV positive 3 years ago, but because it had not manifested, when he tested it was negative. All right? Because it's antibody. Yes, now it is manifest. Okay? Now, it isn't as though people in that area have more sex than the other. That's not the case. The case is this. In some cases, they never really tested. Part of the reason why one found that the numbers in, say, Luo Nyanza were that high is because the testing was even more prevalent, if I use that term. They were doing more testing than probably any other region. They kept getting tested. They kept getting tested. And people would volunteer to be tested once you understood what was killing people. So the more you test and the more people you test. For instance, you would find that out of, say, a percentage of 100, most of the results that we're talking about in terms of prevalence came from that region. Why? They were the ones who were the most tested. Other regions were tested, but voluntary testing was not something mandatory. And so people went when they saw fit, but otherwise...
Hence why it's called voluntary.
Yes, exactly. So no, people didn't test, so you only give the numbers of those who had volunteered to be tested. So then the labeling stuck and said that disease is from that particular region. And yet that was actually not true. The numbers and the prevalence were also determined by just the sheer numbers of people who were tested. Yes. So the story around prevalence has many facets to it. It is not where you'll say, oh, it is this. No, it is this, and then it's this, and then it's this, and then it's this. And then, what then marked the successes of some of these interventions was now the reduction of new infections.
Yes.
And that came about as a result of people adhering to the antiretrovirals. And some to the point where, even when tested, you could not see any evidence.
But now, okay, I'm hearing of the scientific aspect of it, the testing, and then we now know what happens, or rather we understand rather what used to happen. Fishermen trading fish for sex and so on and so forth. But what of other aspects of preventing this disease? Good, we're giving them ARVs to ensure that their count goes lower, their viral count in the body goes
called viral load.
Viral load, thank you, goes lower. And giving condoms for free in every particular public outlet, that's fantastic. But what of educating these people on matters to do with their promiscuity?
My friend, how do you exactly train people on not to be promiscuous? You think people go around announcing that they're promiscuous?
Not train, just let them know.
You think they don't know? You think people are promiscuous don't know they're promiscuous?
The effects of, number one, their cultural practices.
Do you think they don't know?
Their cultural practices. And number two, letting them understand that this issue of having multiple partners, my friend, fish for sex, hii ndio inawamaliza.
Bro, let's talk about the generation that you belong to, okay? From what you've observed, just anecdotally from the friends that you talk to, I'm certain there are those who use protection when they're having sex.
I hope so, because I also don't go asking them, but I hope so.
But there are also very many, I don't know.
Yeah.
You will know because of conversations that people have.
Okay.
The point that I'm trying to tell you is this. When people get an STI, they don't go around saying that I have an STI.
True.
They do not. Okay? So you cannot tell whether somebody has an STI or not.
Apart from the fact that they
Yes, and an STI is not airborne.
Yeah.
Neither is it waterborne. So there's only one way of getting it.
Right.
Okay? Now, the habits that people have, and one of the habits that human beings have, which is a force that is stronger than anything you can imagine, is a sex drive. People get to an age where they want to have sex. And if you are somebody who's given intoxication, you are likely to indulge in fairly risky behavior.
True.
Now, the risky behavior, even when we thought that the infection of HIV had been well contained, there are reports that it is coming in again. You know why? There's a new age group that didn't see the ravages of HIV when we started 20 years ago. For them, it's a story they hear, oh, this is what used to happen.
It sounds like an urban legend.
It sounds like that. Now, this new group come into a time when information on any subject on the planet is at your fingertips. So many of them involve in unsafe sex practices. Okay? Now, so when you hear of incidences, the question that one should ask is, let's look at the stats. What age group did they test? Okay? Because if you do that by age group, you'll be able to tell the age group that represents them in these new infections. It won't be in the older folk, that's for sure. It'll be in the younger folk. And you'll even know the age bracket between this and this. Okay? And their lifestyles will be able to tell you why that is possible. Because promiscuity is not something that any young generation, I'm saying this deliberately, any young generation bothers about. Any. This generation is disadvantaged because promiscuity is even heightened by just the information you have at your disposal. When I talk to young people and they're open and they tell me the things they do, if my pigmentation was lighter, I'd turn red. And someone is telling you this as normal, not something that you should be. But they're being open to you. This is what we do, this is how we go about, this is what we think. And it can't be that it's just him and his cohort of friends. This information is then proliferated and other people get to see and know about it.
So you're saying that this is now it's a generational issue once again?
It is always a generational issue. Because the younger you are, the more recently you've discovered sex. And the more you want to experiment with it. Yes, because it's new and it's fascinating.
Right.
So if you're talking about incidents and people, it will be because of that. Now, if you talk about a generation, and as I said, it's all generations throughout the ages, you are experimenting with alcohol because it's also new to you. The proliferation of drugs that is now available was not available at an earlier time, but you also have this at your disposal. You lump this with the problems of unemployment and everything that goes with people not having gainful employment or something to do on a daily basis regularly, then a lot of free time is at their
disposal. Someone was saying, unatoa wapi nguvu? Umesota, you do not have employment. Where do you get even the energy to be aroused? But that was for, they were just joking on the internet. But when we look at those particular options, those particular situations rather that you're talking about, the fact that the generation now currently doesn't have the same information as other generations had about HIV and AIDS, and that is why they are engaging more and more in unsafe sex.
That's not what I said. It is not the information. The information is available and even more available in the gadgets that they use to get information. What I'm saying is that the live examples of the ravages of the disease is something they have not witnessed.
So for them, it was not in their lived experience.
No, it is not. It is not. So they hear and they read about it.
Yeah. Because actually, you're right. I remember when I was young, you'd hear rumors. Flani ako na ukimwi. Flani ako na ukimwi. So you'd look at them as though they are this alien thing. and you wouldn't want to look like them. For example, those who are emaciated and they had lost a lot
That
of
discussion
weight.
isn't there now, is it? No, people don't even talk about it.
Yeah. Actually, you will learn that some people are positive, but they look very healthy, even sometimes overweight, obese.
You even wonder, surely. That's the point. It's the issue that it was that raised the concerns and made people talk about it and wonder about it. That doesn't exist anymore, which means this younger generation now, HIV is like malaria.
Yeah.
It's like a cough.
It's like a cold.
That's it.
Yeah, unapatanga na unakuwa tu sawa.
Yes, exactly. Because they're ARVs anyway. Yes. And remember, one of the things that ARVs also did, they, prior to, in the likelihood that you would be exposed to the virus, in the likelihood, they offered something called a pre-exposure prophylaxis, something that was supposed to prevent. And it did work.
It's actually there.
Yes, I remember there's one particular drug called Truvada that we worked with to try and determine this. And it was quite interesting because, yes, the stats were encouraging as to just how easy it was to reduce the likelihood of being infected if you took this drug regularly over a period of time. It was a preventative measure.
So how is that research done? You are given that medicine and then you're told, CT, go ye, be promiscuous and safely.
This is how it's done. You've asked, so I'll tell you this is how it's done. The design of the studies were usually a double-blind study, meaning you have a cohort of people who are on the drug and you have a cohort of people who are on a placebo. Okay, you're told, and it's random. So over a period of time, you just go on with your life the way you did. It's not as though we're telling you change your life. And then you get tested periodically. I'm putting it as simple as you possibly can. And you realize that there was a difference.
So there are those who come and, oh my goodness, they're infected.
When you come, you're tested. We know you're positive. We know you're negative. We know. Okay, it is known. Now, you start, for this thing to make sense, you need to give both, all those who test negative,
yes,
you need to give some the ARV, some you give the placebo. Now, there was a criticism. So you're exposing these people to danger by not giving them.
Yeah.
And the question is this. If they were not, as far as they are concerned, they are on ARVs. Okay? You're told. Some of you will receive the placebo, some of you will receive this. You're told. It's not that you're not told. Okay? Now, who are we? The education that you keep saying, the sensitization as to what needs to be done, that is given over a long period of time. Okay? But these studies, much as there were criticisms about the way they went about these matters, but they provided you with a lot of information about how it is that people conduct their lives, what it is that they do. Okay? What is even of interest is that in many cases you'd find that people on placebo, believing that it was the drug, given that what their habits were before, they didn't change. So the likelihood of being infected was just as minimized as it was before. Then there would be a number who, because they feel they're now on protection.
Tuende kazi. Anything that has a heartbeat.
As I would say, full throttle. Yes.
Yeah.
So again, anything that has to do with human lives is always tricky. And that is why in research projects it has to be voluntary. And you are given all this information ahead of time. But before you conduct it, the protocol of the study, meaning the details of how it will be conducted and when, has to go through a very rigorous process of ethical review within bodies that are actually licensed to be able to conduct the review. So you are given permission to now conduct the research. So it's not you decide and you say, we are starting. From the protocol time you start can take a year even more. So a lot of details goes into it.
Yeah.
That in a nutshell is what happens.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Nani anasema hapa George Victor Owino, there is also intergenerational sex, older men with younger women and older women with younger men.
He's absolutely right. He's 100% right. Yes.
Sonnet says the demographic most at risk are adolescents between the ages of 12 to 24 years of age.
The figures and the stats tell you exactly that. That's where the prevalence is highest. Yes.
Because of that, nguvu.
No, damu iko moto.
Libido imeingia sasa, unaona sasa yani you're the conqueror, the lion. the tiger,
It is a good time to live then.
king of the jungle.
So you think?
Yeah. Until you get your first STI. Well, that's proper. I mean, that's an interesting way to look at things. From the stats to, of course, what the US is doing as far as funding for HIV is concerned. They have now come back to give us our money, or rather, not our money, but their money. My question is, have we learned from that 1 year that money had been withdrawn?
We are slow to learn. There's a habit we have as Kenyans that will damn us for eternity. Even the things that are supposed to be of help to the most vulnerable, we steal. We have no problem misappropriating funds that are specific to the very, very vulnerable. We have no problem.
Someone was saying that the problems we have in Africa as a whole, that NGOs came in to solve, will never be solved. Because once they solve them, then that means that those NGOs have become obsolete. Therefore, no more funding is needed. Therefore, no more jobs, no more experts in those particular areas. For instance, if we, for some strange reason today, were able to eradicate HIV completely, all the NGOs that are concerned with that particular disease called AIDS, kazi yao imeisha.
No, it hasn't.
According to
according to your friends and your 10 best friends whom you discuss this thing with, Haishi.
But let me ask you something, City. So let's say there's an NGO in this particular area, George Padmore, and their work is to ensure that, they're doing research within this area to ensure that, people are getting their ARVs, to see how the virus is changing, mutating, or whatever you want to call it. Then they solve that problem. Now they understand the disease. Now they even know how to treat it. Now we even have, not only do we have vaccines, but we also have a medical cure, which at this point is virtually impossible. But
actually, it is not.
But let's say we have all that, right? Once we've achieved that and medicine is available, sinivyo. Sasa hii NGO inafanya nini hapa?
I think what you fail to understand is that the skills you acquire in either research or caring and treating people who are HIV positive, those skills are cross-cutting. They're health skills. Beyond the ARVs, beyond the adherence counseling, what you're doing is you have a trained cohort of human resource who know how to handle diseases. That same skill can be used to handle another disease, whether it is COVID, whether it is malaria, whether it is pneumonia, same skill. It's just that you're looking at something different, but you already have the know-how and the skill of how to manage it. So, for instance, when the government was talking about these health promoters, it's what governments do. You come up with a title to show that you're doing something that hasn't been done before. That workforce was trained and built in large numbers because of HIV. People who know how to work with individuals in communities and people who are trusted within the community. All they do is a refresher course on the particular ailment that they're now working with, but the skills they already have, because it's a disease. And that was the other. HIV was a disease. This thing you're referring to is a disease. If you're talking about just public health and ensuring that people adhere to just the norms of public health, it's a question of training people at their minds. And by the way, these are lay people. These are not people who are trained in clinical care. They're just ordinary wananchi who are trained specifically to manage a specific aspect in that chain. Now, when people do not recognize that the human resource has been wanting for engagement, and then you seek to employ new ones, and you already have human resource. You've heard me mention before in this case, in this studio, when we've talked about public health.
Right.
And I've said that, it is strange that we're still having this discussion, and that there's research to support, not just support, but to clearly demonstrate how useful this thing is and how it works. Integrated Community Case Management was called ICCM. This thing was conducted in Homa Bay County around the year 2004-05 there. They were looking at malaria, pneumonia, and diarrhea. And the understanding was this, something new. Can we train individuals who are lay people within the community to either diagnose, and to offer a first-line treatment for the disease so that it doesn't advance? Diarrhea is not a problem. You will know you have diarrhea. That you will know.
Yes.
Because of the way it manifests. What do you give this guy? Oral treatment, so that the salts that they've lost in the body are regained. How do you handle malaria? Now, over a period of 3 years, I think there were there over 200 community health workers were trained. And the findings were actually quite astounding.
Yes.
Hospital attendance, meaning from a level 3 now to a level 4 and 5, were reduced by something like up to 75%. Now, so all that money that you spend treating people who are actually sick, you nipped it in the bud. Just when this thing was about to take place, you knew what to do. The intervention worked. All the county government had to do was to absorb these 200 people. Right. That's it. That's it.
The reason I've brought up that issue of, once they cure these diseases or they take care of these problems, then, those NGOs are wrapped up and it's over, is because I highly doubt I will walk to or go to a place like Saudi. I've never been there, but go to a place like Saudi and find an NGO on HIV and AIDS. I honestly highly doubt. Might find one on water, sanitation and stuff, but on HIV and AIDS, I don't know. If they're there, well, I stand to be corrected. So my argument is really these NGOs never seem to find a solution. Because again, if I go back to saying that
it is not the NGOs who are supposed to find a solution.
We've been here for, some of them are research-based NGOs to find out these issues and actually help the countries that they operate in alleviate those problems.
So you're saying they do not find solutions so that they can continue working?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
So that they can continue.
And there's evidence to support what you're saying?
I feel like...
Is there evidence to support what you're saying?
Yes. The fact that they have never solved anything.
Like which one, for instance?
HIV, bro. Kuna kuanga na NGOs mingi, hata nyonge na Kiswahili kidogo. Kuna NGO nyingi sana huku nchini ambazo ziko concerned, for example, na issues to do with orphans, and you will always find them in specific areas. Now, I do not say that we do not have orphans in Kenya, but you will always, like, they have been there, build homes, build shelters, and for some strange reason, they keep on having clients. We have those ones of HIV I've told you about. Those ones, those ones concerned with issues to do with water and sanitation. We've been having rivers on this continent forever, but we always have NGOs trying to clean up our rivers, and our rivers never get...
Not forever. When we started polluting our rivers with refuse from factories and what have you, that's when the problem arose. Our rivers didn't have these problems before. Some of us grew up drawing water from a river. You boil and you're fine.
NGOs focused on poverty alleviation. I'm just pointing out, I'm just throwing names in there.
Are you saying
and
that
they've been there for ages,
precisely,
for decades.
And have we not have poverty for ages?
Exactly.
Or are you saying these NGOs create poverty?
So the question is, do they actually create poverty?
No. You see...
Yeah, that's actually a valid question. Do they create that poverty?
How can they?
I don't know, but I'm just saying, I have been seen. City, if I see you here every day, you're saying that you're trying to solve the issue of our windows. Yeah, making sure that our windows, will have, I don't know, something specific. 10 years down the line, you still haven't solved that issue that you said you were coming to solve. So I beg to ask, City anafanyanga nini hapa? Kila siku namuonanga tu anakujanga, naonanga akiwa kwa hikio, anashinanga akichukua measurements, anaangalia, anapanguza, kesho same thing, anarudi tena.
The example you give, if we're comparing windows and doors,
no,
it would make sense.
I'm just saying.
No, that example,
if you're looking for a specific example,
it cannot be given with diseases because the window is inanimate. Diseases are carried in human bodies. Human beings, under their behavior, you are suggesting that you can control and contain human behavior. Where?
What I'm saying is, for decades, we've had these governmental organizations, non-governmental organizations, and so on. People, even billionaires, the likes of Akina, Bill Gates and whatever, they come here and they tell us they want to build toilets for us. And they build toilets. And they keep on building toilets. Decades later, they're still building toilets.
Because we keep having more and more people, and the toilets are not enough for all those more people.
And it's okay. I'm just throwing something.
And if we build the toilets on our own, we wouldn't need people coming to build toilets for us, would we?
I'm asking from a layman's perspective, because I'm certain that even the individuals in these places, the Turkanas, the Northeasterns, and any other place that are facing pandemics and they are having NGOs there. These individuals probably have the same question. Hii NGO imekuwa hapa hivi. Hii miaka yote niligrow nikapata hii NGO hapa.
Because you are asking the question so that you can keep asking the question. If you ask those people, they'd be able to tell you what those NGOs have done over time. And the NGOs may still be there, but they're not doing the very same thing they started doing before. When you try to solve a problem with research,
yes,
one of the things that research does, it opens you up to even questions that you didn't know. Because you now have information you didn't have, and that information opens yet another door. Now, when that door is opened, then you pursue it.
Yeah.
Let me give you an example of what I mean. If someone was HIV positive, the whole idea of having a child became tricky. People did not know how on earth they were going to have children when they're HIV positive without infecting each other. All right?
Yes.
So, over time, those who are in the process of research, many ways, they try to find many ways of solving this problem. They try to find ways in which somebody could, the pre-exposure prophylaxis, PrEP,
and the PEP.
Yes, and PEP and what have you. And the research never stopped. We just don't hear about it. Oxford University came up with an injection, something that you could inject after a couple of months, meaning after 6 months or so. It reduced the viral load to the point where it doesn't matter how you tested it, you would not be able to see any trace of the disease, meaning the the antibodies would not be as elevated as they were before, to the point where it was just normal.
Yes.
But it didn't mean you're not HIV positive, you were. It's just that the virus didn't have the strength it had before. We have ARVs that you probably, again, same pattern, you take 1 or 2 over a period of time. This is movement from the time when you were taking, you are like a walking pharmacy. They improved on these things over time to the point where it's just 2. There are places where you only take 1. But the thing about ARVs is that they're a combo. And the reason why they are 2 is because they do different things.
Yes.
To ensure that they combat the virus. Because the virus, once in your body, it's a very wily virus. It's also struggling to stay alive, and it has a way of moving away from whatever it is they're using to kill it. What am I trying to tell you? I'm answering the question of research which never comes to an end. You conduct research and you figure this thing out. The thing mutates. And why it mutates is because someone is told, for you to adhere, you need to take this drug between this time and this time. Let's talk about something that we understand easily, like antibiotics. We understand illness to mean when I am not feeling well. When someone is feeling okay, it's very difficult to convince them they're not well.
Yes.
So someone takes the antibiotics. The moment they feel better, they stop. What you've done is now you're going to create resistance to this drug. Okay? So somewhere along the line, you have to be given another drug.
Probably a stronger dose.
Problem with that is this. You are beginning to influence your immune system adversely. It gets to a point where there's enormous difficulty of giving you anything that would deal with that disease because it has now mutated. It's not the same. So research may appear to the lay eye as though it's self-serving, but if you understand the advancements that people make, is because you research on something, you figure it out. In figuring it out, your eyes open to something that you had not foreseen, and you pursue it. That is how research works.
Sonnet says, Sonnet says, sorry, movie, it isn't NGOs. Then Sonnet, who is it then? If it's not the NGOs who are putting us in this, a cycle of just needing their help all the time.
Actually, they don't put us in any cycle of needing their help, Chief.
I'm saying who puts us in that situation whereby we need help all the time, not necessarily from the NGOs.
So you're asking the question.
Yes. And then there's George Owino again, anasema, what is the aim of an NGO dealing with? What is the aim of an NGO dealing with orphans? Oh, okay. Is it to end orphans or to support the orphans? I believe it's to support the orphans. Yes. But remember, what I was trying to put out there, and using all these examples that I've used, is because I do not have a list of all the NGOs that we have and some of the things they tackle. I just know a few. I know they deal with some diseases here and there. I know they deal with poverty elevation. I know they deal with, like we've said, orphans and many other things that don't come to mind right now. My question is, I believe some of these things could have been sorted out long ago. The reason why we keep on having this, and of course I'm bringing out a conversation that has been said by a lot of Kenyans, the fact that hizi NGOs zinashindanga hapa hakuna mali zinaendanga, and people actually say that these are just entities to siphon money from donors and also from governments, either their own governments or even our own government, because they're always there dealing with an issue that never seems to go away. So let's hope that perhaps that will change. That's me ndo nilikuwa ninauliza, because to be honest, I don't get it. George Owino has gone on to say, so in that case, you cannot say that NGOs have failed. Well, George, I've not said that they have failed, but also I'm not saying that they have, what is the opposite of failing? That they have succeeded. Because they're still there. Had they failed, chances are they would have left. Had they also succeeded, they would have
Mbuvi,
left.
you are failing to understand a simple point to make a point. And that is, I've explained at great length.
Yes.
The problem they're dealing with now is not the problem they started off with.
True. I agree. You've said, for example, diseases have mutated. The way they're infected and some of the effects have also changed. New ones have emerged. I get it. That is why research is constant. That much I understand 150%. So with every new emergence of a new aspect of the disease, we have to deal with it. I agree.
What we're talking about,
and by the way, not all NGOs, kuna NGOs we probably will need for the rest of our lives, and not just NGOs, like even departments of government and so on, and so we will always need them, because that problem will never go away, because populations are growing, and that's a fact.
It's not just populations. You see, the traditional way which we refer to sometimes and sounds like a fairy tale. The issue of orphans have always existed, but there was a place where orphans went to. See, HIV exposed us to something very strange. The people of the age group who could have taken in the orphans, the HIV orphans, had also died.
Yes.
In some cases, children have moved away from their homes. Children are born out of wedlock. People dump children in dumpsters in the streets. Children's homes have also always existed with us. Remember,
I think the government shut those down, by the way.
That thing, they'll shut them down, but they still exist. Instead, you know, sometimes the government takes some really, really silly steps. You have a problem which you are the one who has failed to deal with appropriately. So you take the easy way out, you shut them down. How does that help? Because the orphans exist.
Yeah.
Instead of streamlining it so that it works, somebody just finds an easy way, I shut it down. And then what have you solved?
Star Kenya anasema hivi, research is not always representative. The piper plays the tune, and this is a well-known and documented fact. They message the recommendations to get mad funding. Always follow the money. Lastly, only 0.1% meant for work for USAID reached the ground. What? The rest was for overheads, bloated salaries, rents, etc. Please open your eyes and develop systems in your country to sort issues. Big Daddy Cool anasema, Kenyans, including Mbuvi, we are good at blaming others. Na tunajisahau. We do not accept blame kabisa. Well, there is a part of the population, but can we blame them? We cannot blame them, because at the end of the day,
why not?
Kuuliza si ujinga.
No.
If
kukataa kuelewa ndio ujinga.
Hapana, but kuuliza pia. Unaweza kataa kuelewa because
yes.
Si lazima uchukue.
Hapana.
Si lazima uchukue
jibu
la mtu kama the gospel truth.
No, hiyo ni kweli kabisa.
Na mtu kukataa ni kumaanisha haujamconvince.
No. There are people who will not want to be convinced because they like the position they've taken and they have no wish to move away from it.
But it depends anyway on the premise on which they are actually arguing it out. Because if I for example,
what are you talking about?
If I tell you, for example, CT, this desk is white, all right, or rather cream, but you're insisting it's white, but I have a reason why I'm telling you it's cream. Perhaps I have an issue with my eyesight, and there's no way you'll convince me just because you're telling me it. And perhaps I don't even know there's a problem with my eyesight.
When someone is presenting their point of view, what makes you think they're trying to convince you? They're just giving you their point of view.
Exactly. We've come to the end of that hour, guys. Thank you so much for your interaction. We are taking a short break. When we do return, hopefully our guests have arrived. We shall be having a conversation with them on matters politics in this country. And perhaps one of the questions that we shall ask is this issue of funding and help and research by the NGOs, and if indeed it makes sense, because one of them is actually a doctor, and I'm certain he did lots and lots of research in his field of study. So when he does arrive here, we shall ask him that question. And the other one is a governance expert. Pia yeye tutamuuliza hilo swali na tuone kama tutapata jibu, lakini kwa sasa, here is the news with Winnie Maganga.
Radio generation, the sound is fine. Pump it up, turn it high all the time. Let the music move you, let's sway. Radio G's got your jam all day.
Radio Generation, the home of urban soul. This is the Radio Generation News.
Good morning, I'm Winnie Maganga. The Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission is today conducting the continuous voter registration exercise as part of its preparation for the 2027 general election. In a public notice, the commission urged all eligible Kenyans to register at any IBC constituency office except in areas currently undergoing by-elections. The services available during the CVR exercise include new voter registration, correction or update of voter details, transfer of registration to a new polling station or constituency, and verification of voter information. The Road Safety Awareness Initiative Kenya has called for stricter measures for emergency vehicle drivers in the country. This follows Saturday's ambulance accident that left 6 dead in Kimende along the Nairobi-Nakuru highway. The initiative called for a law change that will make emergency vehicles operator licenses mandatory and require emergency vehicle drivers to be subjected to refresher courses for their driving licenses. Kitui Junior Secondary School teachers are intensifying calls for independence for primary schools. The tutors are urging the government to formally separate the two levels of schools. Speaking during a media briefing in Kitui, Kupet Kitui Branch Secretary General Kioko Mutia says JSS should not be treated as an extension of secondary schools, but instead be granted full autonomy.
The Ministry of Education and the government must see the wisdom in rethinking the don't taken to secondary schools where it rightly belongs. Autonomy in terms of JS school administration, whereby we demand that JS must be managed by principals and deputy principals.
The Pest Control Products Board has seized illegal pesticides worth 3 million Kenya shillings in a crackdown to curb the use of unauthorized and harmful pesticides from the market in Garissa. Speaking to the press after a 2-day crackdown in Garissa, Lawrence Kalawa, the General Manager for Compliance and Enforcement at PCPB, lamented that some business people were taking the advantage of the porous borders to smuggle illegal products from neighboring countries. He says this puts the lives of Kenyans at risk. Kalawa said that all business persons in the pesticide sector must submit their request for permission to operate in the country.
And we are putting a strong warning to all agro dealers, all business people who are trading with the unauthorized pesticides, that we are at your doorstep. So we are advising very strongly, if you are dealing with these illegal pesticides, you withdraw them immediately before we catch up with you. All the persons that were arrested today will be produced in court in due time, and the law will take its course.
Police in Tot, Elgeyo Marakwet County have received 9 firearms and 120 rounds of ammunition voluntarily surrendered by members of the community. The whole, handed over during the weekend, included 8 AK-47 rifles and G3 rifle. Authorities say the surrender was made possible through the support of local peace community in Aror, Chemusam, and Mokoro locations. The weapons and ammunition have since been secured as part of the ongoing disarmament exercise, which so far has seen the recovery of 249 illegal firearms. A Russian aerial bombardment that lasted more than 12 hours has killed at least 4 people and injured at least 70 others in Ukraine. President Volodymyr Zelensky said the deaths all occurred in the capital Kyiv, where many of the projectiles were aimed, and the victims included a 12-year-old girl. The barrage involved nearly 600 drones and several dozens missiles aimed at 7 regions of Ukraine, and one of the heaviest in the recent months. And that's the truth on Radio Generation. Good morning. I'm Winnie Maganga.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of Radio Generation. Radio Generation assumes no responsibility or liability for the interviewee's views. This is Radio Generation. In the beginning, there was morning radio. But now there is Radio Generation's The People's Breakfast, curious and bold, getting facts from the shadows.
That's what it is.
Now, as the city wakes and secrets stir, a bright new voice shines. The People's Breakfast. Your morning, your voice, your journey. Good morning.
Good morning, my neighbor.
Welcome to the home of hard truths and bold insights, Radio Generation.
A very good morning to you and welcome back to Radio Generation. The time right now is 6 minutes past 8 o'clock. In studio is a political risk analyst, Dismas Mukua. Conversation around campaign mood at whose expense? That is a question that we're going to be asking. Dismas, karibu tena sana to Radio Generation. Such a pleasure to have you here with us today.
Thank you very much. I'm very delighted to be here.
Yes.
And I'm happy to be part of this group.
Right.
Happy to meet CT after a long time. Mm-hmm. I don't want to indicate where I saw him last.
Yes, but you've seen it after a very long time.
After some time, yeah. So I'm very happy to hear. You know, he's one of the few Kenyans who engages in very high-octane intellectual conversations.
True story.
So when you are in this fora, you actually have to prepare for it. You don't just wake up in the morning, have coffee, and show up.
I
you need to engage in research.
Totally agree with you. In the last hour, and you've told me that you were listening to part of that conversation, it was around NGOs and their role currently in our country. One thing I was saying is that we've had NGOs for a very long time, but they don't seem to solve anything, at least not to their completion anyway. What do you have to say about that?
Well, again, as the city had indicated, in my view, there are two ways to look at these, the NGO setup. It actually depends on why the NGO are set up. Others were deliberate set up to get resources from donors and line their pockets, and others are serving a very good purpose. So it's up to the community to identify which NGOs actually serve a very good purpose and which don't serve a purpose. So the way you are painting it, you know, it was a very wide brush. It would I mean, somebody may easily come to an erroneous conclusion that all NGOs in Kenya are special purpose vehicles to get money from donors.
Donors, yes.
Yeah, that may not necessarily be the case. Yes.
All right, thank you for that. Also joining us in this particular conversation is none other than Dr. Barak Muluka. He is the Secretary General, Democratic National Alliance, DNA. Karibu sana Daktari to Radio Generation once again.
Thank you. I'm happy you said demographic.
Right.
Because we go with all the demographics.
Is that so?
Yes. But I'm happy to be here.
Yes.
To see you. To see my brother Dismas, who has been missing in action. And of course to see City. Yeah.
One of the things that, and I promised the listeners that I would ask both of you, and I've already just asked Dismas right now. I'm going to ask you, is that in the last hour we were talking about the role of NGOs in Kenya. I was saying that majority of them, or at least some of them, not necessarily majority, but some of them are just here to, line their pockets, like Dismas was just saying, but others are, doing a very critical role. But I'm of the idea that perhaps chances are, to some extent, maybe all of them are here to ensure that they keep on, getting that bread and that bacon, because once they have completed their mission in Kenya and Africa, then they have to wrap up and go home, and that means probably millions lose their jobs, or hundreds of thousands lose their jobs across Africa. What do you have to think? What do you have to say rather about that?
I think it is a sweeping statement. It ought to be backed by fact, by research, by statistics. Otherwise, we risk throwing a broad blanket, and I think that would not be fair. I know that scholars like Naomi Klein of the shock doctrine hypothesis, some call it theory, has made some useful forays into that space.
Right.
But I think that in reasonable scholarship and even banditry, the things that we say and the conclusions that we reach should be tentative unless they are backed.
Right.
By
What did
hard
she
facts.
conclude, if I may ask?
Naomi Klein believes that we tend to manufacture not just NGOs but crises, so that those crises find sources of funding.
Right.
She looks at the entire question of disruption and social havoc throughout the world, and especially in the countries of the global south.
Right.
And so her shock doctrine hypothesis is built upon the thinking that there would be need for these NGOs, and especially the international NGOs, the very big ones that you find in refugee camps and refugee situations, need to perpetuate themselves as part of a broader global war and crisis industry that must ensure that there is always a crisis. Then you could move that all the way into the spaces where arms are in fact manufactured, and there is need for markets for them. So there must all the time be conflict, and this conflict must always have those who are going to intervene, whether they come as relief agencies, whether they come as good Samaritans in other guises. There's that need, therefore, of what we would call the shock doctrine.
Right.
Yeah, and
Thank
I'm
you
very
so much.
interested in foreign policy.
Right.
There are a number of NGOs that are used as special purpose vehicles for foreign policy. Like, for instance, you can talk about USAID. USAID is largely a foreign policy of the US administration. So the kind of funding they offer to NGOs would be driven by President Clinton's objectives, or President Obama, or Donald Trump. And then you may have DFID, or you could be having Danida. So all of them are driven by these the foreign policy objectives of those various countries.
Right.
So the question we need to ask, a main question in Kenya, that if President Bush wants to fight HIV/AIDS in Africa, is that aligned to our interest in Kenya?
Okay.
If Donald Trump today has indicated that he doesn't think about climate change, he says it's a con game. Is it actually a con game? And if President Trump is disputing scientific facts, now should we go with these objectives for the next 3.5 years? So in my view, we need to go the extra mile and ensure that if you're going to have NGOs, it's a rich mix, and even have locally constructed NGOs supported by local philanthropists. Because most of the NGOs you're making reference to are supported by people
Foreign
from the
entities.
West.
Okay.
Yeah, Bill Gates, these are rich philanthropists. So the question maybe one needs to ask is that because we've got needs, earlier on you were talking about orphanages where, that we've had these crises from time immemorial.
Right.
But do we have a Kenyan philanthropist who use this one as part of their CSR, set aside resources? Because as Sicha had indicated, in the past you'd find out that the people who are supposed to take care of the orphans are actually dead. So babies are dumped all over.
Yes.
So how do you take care of that? But again, we must not forget the fact that human beings, by definition, they want to pursue their selfish interest. So there are a number of people working in these NGOs, not because they're aligned to the objectives, but it's an opportunity to drive a top-of-the-range vehicle, stay in upmarket Nairobi, or even, have you ever wondered that majority of the experts who come to work in Africa
Kenya.
all of them have to put up in market
affluent places, yeah.
neighborhoods.
Right.
I mean,
yes.
if you go to Cuba, and part of the reason why the healthcare system is a huge success, anybody who is working for the NGOs or anybody in healthcare,
yes,
you actually live with your patients. So
Really?
if your patients live in Karen, you live in Karen. If your patients live in Kibera, you
That's
live in
where you set
Kibera.
up.
Yeah, that is where you
Even
live
your residence
and work. Yeah.
Okay.
So that you understand the peculiar challenges. Do you know that an average medical doctor in the US doesn't know what malaria is?
The average doctor.
Yeah, the average medical doctor in the US doesn't know what malaria is.
I didn't know that.
If you go to America today and you've got malaria, it would be a crisis because they don't know what it is.
Okay.
And that is part of the reason why the healthcare model in Cuba is a huge success.
Okay.
And you remember during the time of President Kenyatta, he wanted to get some doctors to come to Kenya.
Yes.
But I think as a nation, you should have adopted that model wholesale. Wholesale, so that we drive our healthcare to another level.
All right.
Now, for instance, part of the reason why Medicare in Kenya is so expensive, basic operations like a C-section in Kenya, it's obscene. Even if you compare it within the local facilities. Have you ever wondered that when you go to an upmarket hospital, you are not treated as a patient?
Yes.
It's a client.
They even call you clients.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or customer care. So the intention is monetization.
Okay.
So when they see Professor Mluka coming in, they look at his medical insurance and they take a decision how they're going to charge and how many tests they're going to do.
And the kind of treatment they're going to administer.
Yeah, so they can tell this guy is suffering from malaria, but they'll do 1 million tests.
Yes.
Not because they're not sure, but they want to make a fortune out of it.
His pocket allows it.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Dismas. That was, as a by the way, because I had promised listeners I was going to ask you. So the reason we're here today, and thank you for your insights, both of you, because I think there's so much more we can discuss as far as that is concerned, and especially on that issue you've said, sometimes crises are manufactured for a specific purpose. We have known it, we have seen it, but now we probably will dissect it on a different forum. But thank you so much.
I want to say something here.
Yes, sir.
These NGOs didn't always exist.
True.
Around the time when NGOs, as we now call them, or public benefit organizations, started existing, was when donors began to mistrust the government. The monies that NGOs started getting originally went to government entities. But the mismanagement of those funds was so critical and so advanced, many sought. Let me talk about the health sector, which is where I worked for the longest time. They sought to have partners who they could work through. Now, all the other NGOs that came about will probably fit into the discussion we're having. But remember, the funding is foreign. Some of the so-called advisors are foreign. They are part of the so-called grant or whatever it is. The understanding is that they are supposed to build capacity for a certain period of time and then exit. Now, what we're discussing is that some of them never seem to exit.
But City, I think NGOs have been there for a long time. And we trace them naturally to disasters. Of course, Naomi Klein, the one I talked about, talks of the rise of disaster capital. But if you look at the World War II situation, for example, it gives rise to NGOs that are coming as relief agencies, springing from the foundations of philanthropy.
Right.
You start seeing a lot of activity around the Red Cross, for example, the Red Crescent. You start seeing the SOS and others, and they were very focused on what brought them into that space. In subsequent years, then we start seeing others, particularly the local foundation, the local NGOs, coming in to take advantage of the spaces and the gaps. And I think that in every domain, you will always find the quacks, the dilettantes, the people who take advantage of the gaps and spaces for purposes of their own gratification. That said and done, would be loath to demonize NGOs in one broad sweep, because they are entities that are doing good work.
True. And I totally agree with you, Daktari, on that particular point.
I'm in agreement with him.
Okay.
My reference point was just a specific area that I have expertise in. But let's move on.
All right. So like we said, conversation that definitely needs to be held. Are we in a campaign mood, and at whose expense? Let me start with you. This particular president that we are having right now, that is President William Ruto, has been accused of campaigning from literally day one. After aliyekelea Biblia chini, watu wanasema ni kama campaign hazikuisha. Just how true is that statement?
Well, you know, the primary responsibility of any politician is to campaign.
Right.
Everything they do, there's nothing which is accidental in whatever they're doing. Everything is by design. Others, the campaigns would be very explicit. Others would be very implicit. Like if you take the example of President Kibaki, he campaigned throughout his lifetime, but for him it was very implicit.
Wait a minute. Throughout his lifetime, even when he was president for 2 terms?
Even when he was president.
Okay.
I mean, when you're coming up with policy pronouncements, you are realigning your policies, you're coming up with a budget. You know, budget essentially is a campaign tool.
Yes.
You're fulfilling the mandate you are given or the promises you made. So every actually, a successful politician needs to be on a campaign mode on 24 hours. But the question one needs to ask is whether or not that campaign is aligned to the interests and aspirations of the populace, and whether or not people actually appreciate. If you look at the US, right now they've started campaigning for their midterms. And in the next maybe 1 or 2 years, people will start campaigning for the presidential election. The presidential term is 4 years. But you have campaigns taking place for almost 3 years. So the question you need to ask is whether or not if these campaigns actually serve our interest. And the answer lies in 2 things. One is meritocracy. One of the biggest challenges we have in Kenya here is we've got a phobia for meritocracy. And in my view, we need to have it exercised in 2 levels. Number one is the democratic meritocracy, that when we go for our elections, do we actually, as voters, do we pick the sharpest tools in the shed to go and represent us in these elective positions? Or do we elect people simply because they've bought a top-of-the-range vehicle, they're very flamboyant, they're charismatic? In as much as we are in a representative democracy, we must have that huge appetite for having the sharpest in amongst ourselves elected as to all these positions. Then number 2, there is the non-democratic meritocracy, ensuring that the public service is filled with people who are knowledgeable. Now, if you embrace those 2 levels of meritocracy, then you will not be worried whether or not you have campaigns on a 24-hour basis. Like right now, some members of our National Assembly, Senate, actually the elected leaders,
right,
and also public servants of rank are accused of these what in accounting and economics they refer to as the agency conflicts. For instance, we've elected them to go and serve us in the National Assembly, Senate, in these elective offices, and then they engage in something called an empowerment program.
Yes.
Now, when you are engaging in an empowerment program and you are in the administration, essentially what you are telling us that your policies have failed. You cannot be the person who is supposed to come up with policies to alleviate poverty, to create wealth, to create employment, and then you are the same person engaged in empowerment programs. So essentially you're telling us that these policies have failed. But again, from the flip side, you see, there's very interesting conversations around empowerment. If you look at it from a real political perspective, that it's giving the administration strategic visibility.
Okay.
So every single day they keep on seeing these politicians they elected to office. Are you not surprised that you have the Speaker of the National Assembly
yes,
engaging in all this kind of programs?
Right.
Yet he's the one who's supposed to be offering leadership in coming up with legislation to correct what the empowerment is supposed to be correcting. So that is when you talk about agency conflicts. Now, the Kenya Kwanza administration has made very good progress in positioning Kenya as an FDI destination. So you'd even expect that people who are running parastatals in Kenya to be dancing to the drum beats of that foreign policy. A few days ago, if you recall, at the National Assembly, there's a cement company called Kalahari Cement Company. This is an international investor who wants to invest in East African Portland cement. But it appears like the management, led by a gentleman called Mohamed Osman, does not want another investor to come on board, does not want a FDI. So it goes to that agency conflict that if you're the MD of an organization,
yes,
and shareholders want to inject FDI, where would you be a stumbling block?
Okay.
If you're a member of the National Assembly and you need to come up with the pieces of legislation to make Kenya an FDI destination or support Kenyans' export, why would you want to stop that from taking place?
Yep.
And you know, if we don't sort out this issue, and I'm happy that Professor Muluka was experiencing this subject is here, if we don't do that, then in a short space of time, Kenya will become the smallest economy in the region. Like, for instance, if you talk about expansion of international facilities, Rwanda is expanding their airports. Very soon, if Kenya we lie on our laurels, on our backs, very soon Rwanda is going to overtake Kenya and become the passenger and cargo hub in the region.
Okay.
You can't even begin to compare the size of the Kenyan economy and the Rwanda economy.
True.
But look at what the leadership has decided to do. But in Kenya, again, we go back to what you were talking about, civil society. The members of the civil society who love going to court, not because the reason they're going to court is aligned to our national and selfish interest, but maybe that is the mission objective of the people who are funding them. You know, they say who pays the piper calls the tune.
Right.
So we really need to go and interrogate some members of the civil society. What is their motivation? Okay. We need to interrogate our leadership. I mean, you recall not long time ago when President Kenyatta took office, they did a survey of the number of parastatals in Kenya. And the feedback was that up to 70% do not serve Kenya's interest nor aspirations.
Okay.
That up to 70% of those parastatals, in fact, the allocation they get from the government is only for salaries. So you've got so many people who wake up early in the morning, go to the office, have a cup of tea, take mandazis, and in the evening go home.
And receive a salary at the end
Yeah,
of the
and they
month.
receive a salary. And the salary is always in time. But why haven't you had leadership to rationalize parastatals?
Okay.
If you rationalize parastatals, that is a recipe for losing the next election.
Now, on that particular point, I want to bring in Dr. Muluka here. He has said that President Kibaki campaigned even after he got elected. I'm trying to still understand that concept. Are you of the same idea?
All governments in the world which rely on the will of the governed, whether they have installed themselves through the barrel of the gun or whether they have been installed through the ballot, whether it's been the ballot or the bullet, as Malcolm X used to say, they require goodwill from the public, and to enjoy that goodwill, they must be perpetually in the campaign mode. What varies is the guise of that campaign mode. Is it subtle or is it crass? What we are witnessing in Kenya today is crass. What we witnessed under President Mwai Kibaki was subtle. That in a subterranean way, he is all the time popularizing his policies, popularizing his government, so that towards the end of that season, he comes up with the slogan, Kazi Iendelee. In other words, he has been working for the nation, and the nation should give him another 5 years, an extension, so that the work he has been carrying out continues. And even as he embarks upon his second term, there is a sense in which he would like to see continuity. And in the search for that continuity, he popularizes a certain way of looking at the national political economy and the activities around it. And he gets to the point where he's able to bring forth two young men and he tells the Kenyan nation, look at these young people, look at them favorably. So he's been campaigning. It's just that he's a more polished statesperson as opposed to the raw and crude politician who brings down the Bible and embarks immediately on campaigning, car rooftop style. All his public communications are in the campaign register. He never knows when to adopt a different communications register or forum. And you see that even from year one, the first 6 months, MPs are going out there and cabinet secretaries are going out there and they are asking, will you support President William Ruto this time? So Kibaki, yes, was campaigning.
Yes.
Only that he was a lot more polished, and therefore we may want to ask, what are the drivers behind this crude campaign? One, I think, is panic. President William Ruto has lived under the cloud of panic from the very moment he took over. Remember that the legitimacy of his government was questioned by the political opposition. There were rallies, there were protests, there were mandamanos, and he needed to counter them. He countered them not by working for the nation,
yes,
but by having his own political campaigns mounted. At some point, he was able to capture and cage Raila Odinga, who was the primary opponent.
Right.
But having done so, also generated fresh ground for fresh opposition of a virulent nature of the same type that Odinga had mounted, and therefore he lives also in fear of the formations within the united opposition, as it calls itself. He also lives in fear of a new phenomenon that has come up, what we may call the youthquake. And the youthquake is so amorphous, it is subterranean, it's not very clear where it's going to emerge from next time. It could develop into a force that becomes difficult both for him and for the other side. And I think, in fairness to everyone, it's useful to point out that it's not just President William Ruto who is on the campaign rostrums. The political opposition is also in the campaign mode. But we can say that the panic, the fear, the uncertainty, the failure, because a working government does not need to go out campaigning so robustly. It focuses a lot more on the work that it's doing, on the merits that can be found in the work that it is doing, and why what it's doing and its policies are good, and why they should be carried into the future. You don't find those who engage in the public in that fashion asking questions about, will you vote for us? You don't find them saying things like nitawakoroga, because utawakoroga wapi? Utawakoroga wakati wa kura. So it also is a demonstration of failure and some level of compensation for that failure, and the abandonment, as Dismas aptly puts it, of your manifestos. And I'm using manifestos in plural deliberately, because President William Ruto had 48 manifestos, one for each county of the 47 counties, and one, shall we say, master plan for the entire republic. They've been abandoned,
yes,
and instead you are now going out to treat voters in advance.
You have said the opposition, the united opposition as they'd like to call themselves, DNA is not in that group.
No, we are not in either formation. We are like Jesus Christ.
Okay.
Crucified on the cross with the two criminals, one to the left and one to the right.
Okay.
And so you cannot ask us to join either of the criminals.
Yes, but the criminals were saved. One was saved.
Yeah, and that criminal was saved after recognizing Christ, who was in the middle, in the cross.
So no one has recognized you yet.
So one of the criminals must say, remember us when you get to the
Father.
To the Father, and we must promise them that they will be with us in paradise. And
from that day
we're going with the youthful generation. The youth quake. That is where we are. Otherwise, we are talking of more of the same. Finally, you must remember that there is a panic within the old order. The old order that uses the same old assets to campaign. You can see it's still the same tribal card, the same crunching of tribal arithmetic, and saying that if so and so joins such and such, that I'm the best, no, I'm the finest, I've got these numbers from my region. They are cut from the same fabric.
If I may just buttress what our professor has indicated, as a student of applied politics, you know, the purpose of really a campaign, if you break it down, is to influence and move perceptions towards supporting a certain agenda. And essentially you have two kind of political leaders. The first category is a group of politicians who know to craft a winning strategy. So you tell them that there's a competition here, we need to win. They will sit down and will craft a winning campaign strategy. They'll be sworn into office. Then you've got another category of politician that for them they know how to govern. They may have challenges running a campaign, but as soon as they're in office, they know how to govern.
But how are they tested?
Now, the challenge that we face in the world today is having that one politician who's got capacity to run a campaign and having won knows that I'm now in office and I'm going to deliver in my mandate as soon as I get into office. Now, an example comes to mind, not necessarily from Kenya, because I spoke about Mwai Kibaki and you appeared a bit shocked. So it suggests that you were not around during his administration.
I was actually around.
Yeah, but look at President Obama. When he started running, he was described as a black swan. That who is this black who wants to become president? But he had very many gifts, many skills. He won an election. If you notice, as soon as he was pronounced winner by the media, and when he made his acceptance speech, people were shocked, because 2 days ago they see Barack Obama octane energy. It's as if he's taken all the energy drinks in the world. But as soon as McCain acknowledged that he's been beaten and he was addressing a rally saying that now I'm the president, people said, wait a minute, where is the energy from Barack Obama? He appears like he's been drained. But now he had morphed to the leader who is going to execute policies. That is why he was able to reform the healthcare sector, come up with this thing called Obamacare. That most presidents in the US were unable to do.
Most Republican.
Yes.
Please go on.
Yeah. But even people like Bill Clinton gave it an attempt.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. But by implementing Obamacare, he was actually still influencing and moving perceptions. So when we are going to elect our people, that is the question we need to ask ourselves. Because again, you know, as we are told by economics, that human beings act because of their selfish interest. We should look at these people and ask ourselves, are these people snake oil salesmen that they know how to convince us, but when they go to the office, they'll not be able to deliver? Like, for instance, you've seen a number of politicians coming from his part of from his village. You see them over the weekends.
From Emmanuelia?
No, from the larger region. Yes. Seeing them over the weekend dressed like, they're putting up mud houses for the people in the village.
Yes.
And they're pretending to identify with those people.
Right.
But we see now that is part of a campaign strategy.
Are they pretending?
Oh, well, it is tokenism, because they really do not make any fundamental difference in the lives of the people, and they are photo opportunity optics. that they are basically engaged with. It's not any significantly different from the empowerment, so-called empowerment programs that President William Ruto is involved with. Change that is going to make a difference is change that empowers the people to be productive and to take care of the city. You come from the lake basin where we eat a lot of fish. We are connoisseurs of fish, and you know the old dictum about giving me fish
as opposed to
teaching you how to fish. Actually, I guess that introduces another very interesting subject that I had the occasion of. I remember having a conversation with City Muga some time ago. That you have this like Victoria, which has got to understand some of the best, I can say, fishes now in the world. But have you ever wondered why fish from Lake Victoria is not available in the European Union markets or in the UK and the US, while you have an international airport in Kisumu? Have asked yourself that question. If you're talking about logistics, it's been proven beyond doubt that you can transport cargo from Kenya and in under 8 hours.
Perhaps there's no demand for it. Perhaps
there's no demand for it.
Right.
You may have known of a company called Homegrown. They come to Kenya, they've invested in a lot of farms. They get vegetables, they get fruits, they're nicely packaged.
Yeah.
And while Kenyans are asleep, they're en route to the UK. So this morning, when the British housewife is waking up in the morning, they should be getting fish from Lake Victoria. The way they get vegetables from Nairobi, the way they get everything from Nairobi. How come that is not the case? Now, if you're talking about agriculture being a subject under devolution, you've got governors around the lake. How come they've not created now real empowerment facilities so the fisherman in Lake Victoria can actually harvest the fish and it transported using an international airport in Kisumu? You know, an international airport is not supposed to be just for passengers, especially local travel on Fridays and
it's cargo.
It's supposed to be cargo. Now,
but don't you think that you expect too much from our governors?
I don't think Dismas expects too much from our governors. First, within that region, there is a whole authority that has been developed by the state. Then the governors have also come up with their own formation that brings together, I think, up to about 17 counties. But over and above that, the Kisumu International Airport sits right on the Lake Victoria itself, the largest freshwater body in the world, leaving alone the Great Lakes of North America. They must first of all combine before they can beat the Lake Victoria, and with a wide variety of fish right there on the seashore. It should be able for us within the space of 6 hours to get fish from Lake Victoria to Europe.
I asked the question about capacity. See, the
capacity is developed city, but let me not cut you short.
No, it's all right. I actually like being cut short. You know why? It affords me an opportunity to train my mind to carry that train of thought, even when somebody has some input. Start with the MPs who dress down for purposes of their
photo opportunity.
Yes. Most of our leaders are villagers. Villagers in the sense, we're actually all villagers here. Yes, they're villagers. It is almost impossible to get elected if you're not a villager.
Yes.
There has to be a part of you that resonates with them and they feel, yes, this is definitely one of us. Much as we've lived in urban areas for a very long time and gone to school, if you look at the way we go about our business, we are essentially villagers. Now, why am I emphasizing this point and capacity? We mistake academic qualifications among our elected leaders with a capacity to actually translate what the public needs in the areas of jurisdiction where they've been elected, and to translate that so that they actually benefit. With the abundance of resources that we talk about in the region that I come from, and which you also come from, and you, the leaders that we have don't seem to understand that if they promote enterprise, if they promote their own source revenue, that they need to use the county governments as an employment agency would not necessarily arise. That is the level of their understanding. Without fail, literally all of them. When they talk of industry and enterprise, it is talk. So all the resources that we know exist join that conversation, and it is talk. The day this forum of these 17 counties can talk to us about the plan they have for having intra-county trade, so that the strengths are reflected in what they produce and the benefit they have with training, so that they actually raise, I'm using a simple example, they raise their own source revenue and the income of that region, which means they raise the wealth of the regions, then we will say that these people understand what they're doing. So long as the monies that come from the government as their share is the subject of debate and the inadequacy of that money, and yet we never really get a full account of what it is they've done with what it is they receive.
Since let me introduce another perspective there.
Please.
We are told that, I think, if I remember right, since devolution, about 3.6 trillion has gone to developed governments. And understand from these counties from eastern and northern eastern, there's actually nothing to write home. Of course, a few of course tarmac roads and everything else. But again, according to, I don't know, early on you were talking about urban legends, that most of the resources meant for that part of the world, the resources are found themselves in Nairobi, apartments. Have you ever wondered why there are an average Kenyan who cannot afford a cup of tea at a 5-star hotel today? 2 years into office, they can afford to buy a 5-star hotel. Before election, they can't afford a cup of tea in a 5-star hotel. But 2 years later, they can afford to buy it. And in my view, part of the reason why Nyanza lags behind is majority of the leaders, they fear that if the actual voter gets empowered, then they have to change their campaign strategy. Can you imagine that those are people who are supposed to be going and fishing? You've got maybe through this supply chain management, so you've got contracts with all these supermarkets in the European Union, UK. You employ so many people who go fishing every day. These politicians will have nobody to address when they go for their rallies. They'll have nobody to address. Now, these fishermen, they will get resources. They will install DSTV in their residence.
Right.
They'll be buying The Economist every day. They'll be buying Financial Times every day. Their kids, they'll get resources. Now their kids will go to London School of Economics.
You're talking about the fisher folk buying all these magazines. Anyway, it's a story. No, go on.
After they've been empowered, because
go on. Yes.
And again, I'm making reference to your earlier conversation. There are people within the show, they go fishing right now.
Yes.
In the evening, they'll come back with fish. But because there's no storage facilities, the fish has to be sold or eaten same day.
Right.
And there are those ladies who say that for them, right now they're asleep. In the evening, they'll crawl out and say, these guys are going to come with surplus fish. Let me go and offer myself so that I can get fish for my family.
Yes.
But if you had storage facilities, and majority of the people who are lying idle are employed, number one, you will have nobody to address at your pleasure on a Monday morning. I can bet my head today, if you go around the lake right now and you call for a political rally, it will be packed to the rafters. Now, if somebody has got a contract with a supermarket in the UK and they're getting a decent income on a regular basis, they will have no time to go for these political rallies.
Right.
So in my view, it's in the interest of these politicians to maintain status quo. That when these guys go for the political rally, they're given a standing allowance of maybe 200 bob. But if you're participating in a supply chain and maybe you're being paid 200,000, say, so would you ignore your 200,000 per day for 200 bob?
Of course not.
No.
Okay, I mean, and it's a fair argument. CT, I can see your.
It's not just fair.
Yeah.
It is a valid.
It is valid
argument because basically you are manufacturing consent, manufacturing following, and you are using poverty, and it's a perpetuation to mediate for you. That when people are kept poor, they are kept dependent, you mystify yourself, even in the context of that which clearly belongs to them, like the Constituency Development Fund, which you parcel into very thin pieces, almost like you are slicing salami, and take them to the people.
Right.
You announce that on such and such a day I will be giving out bursary checks, and you're giving people 1,000 shillings, not in any significant way impacting upon their lives, or you are holding a forum. In fact, Dismas, you don't even need to call for a rally. You just happen, you just get there, and the crowds assemble because of the levels of poverty and idleness, and you call it empowerment. You have got a women's group that has got 200 people. You give them 3,000 shillings. You tell them this is to empower you. So they wait again for you to come some other day. People must be kept poor, so that leaders must continue mystifying themselves and continue being elected.
And a successful politician in Kenya has invested in two things. First of all, the top of the range vehicle with a sunroof, and then next to that vehicle, obviously there's a security car, and then they've got a mobile public address system.
Right.
A very powerful mobile public address system. Very powerful.
Yeah.
Every politician in Kenya that I know, starting from an MCA, so that when they go stop somewhere, the first thing they want to do is to address the unsuspecting voters. That is even the reason why recently in my part of the world we're having problems with matangas. You'd find a normal politician on a Friday addressing 6 matangas. So they go in, they're given 2 minutes, matanga of the first person, second person, third person, and for them they don't even see mourners, they just see voters. Even when they go to church, they don't see worshippers, they just see voters. Simply because majority of them are in this campaign mode, but are not the one of where you're executing your manifesto. No. I mean, you've even seen that at some stage in public, ladies are told to stand and display their assets.
Yes.
I mean, is that policy implementation?
Does this not lend itself to what I was saying, that these people do not have the capacity to do what we think they should do? Because everything you said demonstrates that. Because if they understood what genuine empowerment meant, they would rush towards, because it would make their lives easier. And when you're voted in, it is because of the capacity. Now, somebody who thrives to spend the amount of time that we're saying they do to ensure that you disempower your people in the name of empowerment so that they can continue voting for you, that's a person who really does not know what it is to take to do whatever it is that they sought.
So I have a question.
Then you raise a fundamental question, City. Then why does Mora or Wanjala or Salome go vote for people not because of their character, capacity and competence, but because they can talk in public?
Okay, let me ask you the question. Why do you think that someone like Kibaki, whom is very well spoken of, in the year 2006 was almost facing impeachment? It's just that technical reasons could not allow for it to go on. Why? I know it's not in the public domain, but if you do your homework, you'll find he had a problem. People were very unhappy with him. He was unpopular.
There's even
why?
There's even
and this is a man whom we look back and herald as having done remarkable things. He was unpopular. Why?
There's even a lady who was nominated, I think, to be secretary to the cabinet at some stage, and members of the National Assembly refused to approve, simply because they said that when she was in charge of a sensitive docket, they would go to her office on Thursdays and Fridays, expecting to be given money for the weekend, but she could not give money for the weekend. So the MPs wakasema, okay, tutakutana mbele. And when her name was presented, she was given a polite but firm no.
Yeah, but
just you're mentioning the name.
City, when we talk about President Mwai Kibaki, we must also remind ourselves of Governor Kivuta Kibwana in Makueni, okay, who was doing everything that City you are talking about, empowering the people, pulling them out of the quagmire of poverty, so that they would look after themselves. That paradigm shift that we requires a lot of courage. When you go into that environment, if you're not careful, it's that environment that changes you. You go there, people expecting that because now there's Dismas who has been saying all these good things, who is very knowledgeable, we are going to see something different. But within days, you will find that the governor is facing impeachment, and he's facing impeachment because he's not delivering what the members of the county assembly expect, rather than what the people would like. And you need the courage of Kivuda Kibwana to be able to petition the Senate to say, dissolve this county government, dissolve even the assembly, let all of us go back.
Question for you, CT, because when you say these leaders lack capacity, is it capacity individually or to the institutions that we elect them to?
Take your pick, because take your pick. How do you have the billions that these people have? To begin with, none of them know what to really do with that money. That thing throws them off balance completely. They have some idea of what they'd like to do, but let me ask you, if you have a semi-autonomous unit, which is essentially a government that you are running, your priority is your people, the business of that county, and to grow that county so that your people can be prosperous.
Right.
Now, where in this country, you can pick 1, 2, 3, maybe, at the very most, counties where you find a governor who actually understands that, and you can see what is they're doing, just with the plans they have. The ones who actually understand and even set in motion processes, some of them don't get a second term.
Well, we are seeing a governor who seems to know what he's doing in Murang'a, for example.
Yes.
That comes to mind.
He will probably get a second term.
Immediately, and he probably will get a second term. And when we ask ourselves, what is it about him? You will see that he is an individual who is sufficiently modest to acknowledge that he cannot know everything.
Yes.
And who elects, therefore, to work with competent people.
He's not afraid to work with competent people. He's not afraid to listen to them.
Fine. Elsewhere, you will find leaders who are telling you that I'm better than these 4 or 5 rolled into one.
But again, it's not always the case that leaders with capacity, character, and competence get re-elected, as Honorable Raphael Tuju found out at some stage. Even for the governor you're talking about, the governor from Murang'a, if he does not read the political signs clearly and align himself with the party, the correct political party or the correct vehicle, he will suffer loss. Even for Semenya SHA, we said to have delivered for his constituency, but as some said, people said it was nice doing business. Maybe we go back to that. Do we really? Kenyans love good governors. Kenyans love good leaders.
No.
But why don't we elect good leaders?
No, we don't.
Why don't we elect good governors?
No, we don't. We don't. It is not possible for anybody to be in a public service, especially in an elective position, if the citizenry do not know that for you to maintain that, you need to be held to account. We do not hold our leaders to account. We don't. We go around it, we talk around it, we do not. The moment someone becomes a mheshimiwa, they're impervious to any correction. And most of them are such dunderheads. You even wonder how it is they even convince people to vote for them in the first place.
It's because maybe they were in the right vehicles. As a professor has indicated, Governor Irungu Kangata stands out as one of the governors who is doing an amazing job. But if he's not in the right political outfit, he will go home.
Don't you think it's a crying shame that you have 47 counties, and we are struggling to count the people who you can actually look at? Because what they do is clear. First of all, there are very, very, very few audit queries from the from
Auditor General.
Yes, there are few. See, whenever the Auditor General queries, that's what they are. This money was budgeted for this, but as I look, I do not see where this money went. All right?
You know, again, you open a Pandora's box. A few days ago, I interacted with members of the National Assembly who sit in these governance committees. It was very surprising that a number do not know the meaning of qualified reports and qualified
and the
reports.
members of parliament, isn't it?
Yes, there was even a governor who was very happy telling Kenyans that he had received a qualified audit report. And that governor was one of the governors in Nairobi. You know, Nairobi has had a number of them.
Yes.
So the governor receives a qualified audit report.
Right.
And he says,
He breaks into champagne.
We are doing very well.
Yes.
We have got a qualified report. But these matters of accountability eventually must find their way to the public itself, that the population must demand accountability, and that public must be sufficiently educated to know what the role of those who have been elected is. This takes us back to the NGOs that we kickstarted this process with. One of their fundamental duties, responsibilities, is civic education, so that we move away from this philosophy that informs us that elected members are supposed to be some kind of ATMs anytime you see them. I come from a constituency called Huisero in Kakamega County. And if I may use it as an archetype, when the MP arrives, the people, the constituents, expect that they are going to be told to queue. It may be a matanga, such as the one Dismas was talking about. It will be disrupted. That you are going on, people are in mourning, and it's a very solemn occasion, but this gentleman will materialize in the middle of the sacrosanct processes, because he has got to attend 6 matangas. He's got to be given the opportunity
to address.
And as he walks away with 3/4
of the mourners.
And the mourners are now in a jamboree mood. They queue, they're given their 100, 200, and they walk away. How are they going to hold that kind of MP to account?
Before you ask that question,
I'm not even going to ask. I want us to take a short break. It's time for the news, but when we return, of course, we pick it up from there, and also we just talk about what then should be done differently as far as the campaign mode that literally brought us here to talk about. So don't go too far. We'll be right back.
Radio generation, the sound is fine. Pump it up, turn it high all the time. Let the music move you, let's sway. Radio G's got your jam all day.
Radio Generation, the home of urban soul. This is the Radio Generation News.
Good morning, I'm Winnie Maganga. A 75-year-old woman has died after a brutal attack in Netumbo village, Lugari constituency in Kakamega County. Neighbors say the victim, identified as Priscilla Tit, was assaulted on Saturday night. Reports indicate she was raped before her house was set on fire. She was rushed to Kakamega County Referral Hospital, where she later succumbed to her injuries. Residents are now raising concern over rising insecurity in the area and are urging authorities to step up patrols and bring attackers to justice.
Kufika tukapata mshere Priscilla alikuwa ameungua sana mpaka ametoa nguo, mwili wote umeungua. Nikafika saa 11 ndiposa watu wa Hope wakakuja na ambulance wakabeba mshere wakaenda na yeye. Kila kitu kimeungua kwa nyumba, mahindi ilikuwa ndani, vitu zake zote, nguo zake, hakuna chochote ambacho kimebaki katika hiyo nyumba.
Sisi tumesikitika sana, sababu hata penye nimetoka ni siku 4 kama wamepomwanga nyumba wamepepa kuku. Sasa hapa Itumbu tukilala hatulali. Hata mimi nimetoka hapa kufika nyumbani kwangu napata wamepepa mahindi kwa nyumba.
usalama umekuwa chini na tunaomba serikali askari wa huku wafanye kazi.
The Central Bank of Kenya has announced plans to introduce compensation guidelines for victims of digital fraud. The move is aimed at strengthening customer protection within the fast-growing mobile money and digital wallet sector. The compensation framework is part of the Kenya National Financial Inclusion Strategy 2025-2028 and comes amid rising cases of fraud targeting digital financial platforms. Former Chief Justice David Maraga has declared he will not bow to pressure to abandon his 2027 presidential bid. The ex-CJ insists he's ready to challenge President William Ruto at the ballot. Maraga, who spoke in Mombasa County during a meeting with the United Green Movement Party officials, accused the government of eroding constitutional values, protecting impunity and failing Kenyans in the fight against corruption.
We are in bad shape. Ni nini mimi nataka kufanya? My vision is to reset, restore and rebuild Kenya under ukatiba. That is my philosophy. Ukatiba, constitutionalism. Watu wengine wameniuliza ati philosophy yako ni gani? Nikawaambia yangu ni ukatiba. Constitutionalism na mimi ni mukatiba. Umeelewa hivyo? Hiyo ni kusema tufanye kazi kulingana na katiba yetu.
Public Service CS Geoffrey Ruku has accused the former President Uhuru Kenyatta of inciting Kenyans against the current administration. Speaking during a public engagement forum in Mbeere North, Ruku stated that while the former head of state is permitted to express his views and offer advice to the sitting president, he should refrain from engaging in active or partisan politics. The CS urged Kenyatta to emulate his predecessors, the late Daniel Arap Moi and Mwai Kibaki, by acting as a statesman and showing respect for those currently in office.
Tunaheshimu Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta, tunajua ni rais, amehudumu miaka 10 kama kiongozi wa taifa. Yale ambayo sheria inamruhusu kufanya ni kutoa mawaidha kwa rais wa jamhuri William Ruto, lakini kusimama kumpiga vita ya kisiasa, jameni, hiyo sio jambo ambalo ni mzuri kwa taifa yetu ya Kenya.
East Africa's Kenya Police FC, Simba SC from Tanzania, and Uganda's Vipers all sealed their places in the second preliminary round of the CAF Champions League on Sunday, though in very different fashion. Simba were held 1-1 by Gaborone United in Dar es Salaam, but progressed 2-1 on aggregate. Kenya's Police FC meanwhile lost 2-0 at home to Mogadishu City, leaving the tie locked at 3-3 over 2 legs, but advanced thanks to away goals rule after 3-1 first leg victory in Somalia. And that's the truth on Radio Generation. Good morning, I'm Winnie Maganga.
In the beginning, there was morning radio. But now there is Radio Generation's The People's Breakfast. Curious and bold, getting facts from the shadows.
That's what it is.
Now, as the city wakes and secrets stir, a bright new voice shines. The People's Breakfast. Your morning, your voice, your journey. Good morning.
Good morning, my neighbor.
Welcome to the home of hard truths and bold insights. Radio Generation.
Welcome back. This is Radio Generation. The time right now is 8 minutes past 9 o'clock. And the conversation is around campaign mode. And there's something Dismas was saying. But we were just having that off-air conversation about how elections in this country are done, how in this country are done. When we look at other countries, whether it's the UK, and Sana, we actually see a lot of what is happening in the UK and the US because we tend to follow their cultures a lot through our media as well. And we see, former leaders, former prime ministers, or even former presidents coming out to campaign for their folks that they support within their parties. But I was just saying, here in Kenya, we don't have a lot of ex-presidents. 2 of them are dead. Only 1 is remaining.
Well, being dead doesn't make you less ex-chief. You are president at some point.
But sasa Kibaki ata kampeni na ni bro na mededi.
No. It's the statement you made that I'm questioning.
Which is, remind me the statement.
That we don't have too many. And
yes.
I don't think there's any country which has got too many. If you look at the United States of America, they probably have 3 or 4
ex-presidents.
Maybe 5. I'm not so sure. I need to do a real count again.
Right.
But you can't say they have too many because you must ask yourself too many on the basis of what? How many presidents have they had up to where?
Up to now.
If they are doing the 46th, if they have 3 or 4, then they don't have too many. In fact, in terms of percentages, we probably have too many as compared to them. But Mbuvi, you need to apologize because you have been trying to excuse bad governance, saying that we don't have sufficient experience here. Experience is about what you learn.
I'm excusing bad governance.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Excusing bad, in fact, apologizing for bad governance. There are things which you learn from others.
Yes.
You take examples and lessons from others. You see what is working and you try to
copy and implement.
No, not copy and implement. Adapt. Adapt it to your environment,
to suit your circumstances,
to suit your situation.
Yeah.
And that we can do. We have seen things that people are doing elsewhere, including people in environments that we considered to have collapsed, perhaps even failed. When Dismas Mukwa talks about Rwanda and the possibility that they could actually run ahead of us in the coming days, a Mickey Mouse economy until just the other day, a war-torn nation with genocidal tendencies,
right?
But reorganized. Of course, I recognize that they have got their own challenges because their success is built around an individual, and therefore sustainability beyond the presence of that individual, given such things as natural attrition, which must eventually catch up with them, becomes questionable. But for the time being, they're getting things done, and they're getting them done right. What is wrong with us that we cannot get things done and done right?
I've got an answer to that. We started by discussing meritocracy and these agency conflicts.
Yes.
Now, you used UK and US as good examples,
Right.
During the last elections, a former Republican president, George Bush, said, I'm going to sit out of this election. I'm not going to say anything. So he took a decision. He's not going to be proactive. But on the other hand, Bill Clinton and Obama said, we are going to be hyper-active in the campaign.
Right.
So in my view, for an elected leader having served your term in office, you've got urgency, you've got capacity to take a decision on how you want to lead your retirement. So if you want to be active, run for another political office or guide people, assist people in taking decisions, you can do it. We even saw it happening in Botswana. So I think whatever President Kenyatta wants to do, give him the chance to do it as he deems fit, and people should accommodate divergent views. When, in fact, the current administration should be happy that there's somebody who has been in that office for 10 years who can offer an opinion. And you see, the beauty of an opinion is when somebody gives an opinion, you don't need to take it. But again, there's also a probability.
Yes.
Or rather, the probability does exist that what our President Kenyatta is subjecting to us is actually drama. Kenya is known for elite decision making. And you would remember what Ali Njiru said at some stage, that we have our political cousins. So they take decisions and then they come and mislead the masses. So we think that in fact there is a conflict between these powerful leaders, but well, in fact there is nothing. They're stringing us along. But the reason why we have a crisis, the one Professor has indicated, is this urgency conflict. We are told from the US that Donald Trump is using his office as a factor of production. that his family is probably the biggest beneficiary of his administration. And again, we are told by the media from the US that some of the things he's doing, had they happened under Barack Obama, then you'd be having a crisis. So you see, you have two powerful people operating in the same environment. Operating in the same environment, but with different outcomes. Not long ago, Trump said that I don't like my opponents. In fact, I wish ill for them. And we are told by the US media that if it's Barack Obama who had said that, then we'd be in a crisis. Now, many people have said many things about Kenya's foreign policy, but it has positioned as an FDI destination. And in fact, I understand that the entire world is paying attention to that. If we go back to our earlier example, do people who run parastatals in Kenya, are they loyal to their selfish interests, or are they loyal to national and public interest? For instance, if you want to sell, I'll use the same example, you want to sell East African Portland Cement. Do you know East African Portland Cement today is known for selling land? Selling land is not the core business of East African Portland Cement, but they are known for selling land.
Why?
That scandal.
It appears there's an agency conflict that the leadership in the organization does not want this company called Kalari to come on board. You would expect that if you are running an organization like Portland, you want to maximize shareholder returns. The shareholders have said you are going to take this path. But as the leadership, you are creating a roadblock here. There was even a session at the National Assembly, and some members of the National Assembly who don't understand the subject said, wait a minute, why do you need FDI coming to this organization? You would recall before the Gen Z demonstrations in Kenya, members of the National Assembly passed a bill, and they went to the top of Mount Kenya and they said, Hail Mary, this is the best piece of legislation. Then a few days later, when President Ruto said, I'm not signing it into law, they did a quick U-turn and said, this is the best thing in the world. While the bill that the president refused to sign, as far as I'm concerned, was a very solid piece of legislation because a few of the offending things had been removed. But there was no member of the National Assembly who stood up and told the president that, in fact, this bill you refused to sign is a good piece of law. Because you remember one of the members of that committee who said that if you've got a car, you're going to pay a certain circulation. And is the same MP a few days ago said that if you make your submissions via email, they're going to treat it as a spam. That is the chairman of the finance committee. Now, you've bought space in the newspapers, told us that as a responsible Kenyan, can you please make your submissions? You make them, and with alacrity, the chairman of that committee said, any email sent to us is going to be treated as a spam. And this gentleman is said to be an accountant. What does it tell us about some of the people we elect into office? There's that agency conflict. And you recall President Ruto indicated that some of these members of the National Assembly actually demand for the given khaki envelopes. And since he said that, I don't know whether any heads have rolled, or we have now accepted that anybody with resources, and understand it's as low as 10,000 bob given in bathrooms, that anybody with resources can actually influence the business of the two houses, National Assembly and Senate. It goes back to what Siti Muga was talking about, competence.
Daktari, what I was saying about the age of our democracy, I was comparing it to the age of America, and that's why I said we don't have many presidents to campaign for their successors. Right now, we only have President Uhuru as the only surviving ex-president. The US has, I think, 5. There's George Bush, there's Bill Clinton, there's Joe Biden, and there's Barack Obama. So I was just saying that they have more ex-presidents alive today compared to Kenya. But I did not excuse bad governance. I was just comparing the two democracies in terms of age. Yeah.
Is that a disclaimer or clarity?
It's clarity, because at no point do I believe that just because we are 62 years old, then we should condone the corruption that we are seeing around and the many other things and the issues that Kenyans have brought up.
62 years is a long time, huh?
It is a long time, quite a long time.
The need, let's talk about the cultural assimilation that we've had over time with regards to our politics. We are a passive-aggressive lot.
Yes, we are.
When someone is in leadership, we may even disagree with them, but they'll never get to hear our disagreement. It's always couching. You know, other people don't quite. It's always something that looks like an excuse, but Mheshimiwa, this is wrong, and it's wrong because of this and this and this and this. And the moment you're in leadership, it looks like anybody who thinks they want to scurry favors from you must find ways of approving everything you do, even if it's the most idiotic thing that a human being can actually do. They will find ways of trying to make it sound like it's a good thing. Now, traditionally, we Africans had a very good way of holding people to account.
Yes.
Accountability was actually a very high factor. There are some communities, for instance, you are not just judged by the way you led your family, you're judged by the way you relate to your relatives and others. That's how you're judged. And it means you're an open door policy and you're willing to help where you need to. This nuclear family that the West introduced to us, we didn't have. We're discussing earlier the issue of orphans.
Right.
They were orphans, but they were taken care of. Now, over time, all that morphed and changed. But the moment we had a situation where the politician, introduced money into the equation, the meritocracy that this man has been alluding to went out of the window. Because what you're looking for was now not somebody who you feel is best suited, but somebody who you feel will be able to cater for your immediate need. And again, he alludes to it. When you're poor, your main concern is today, not tomorrow. Tomorrow is far. The day after tomorrow is even further. And what is also right about is when people have a means of surviving, they don't need your 200 bob. They actually do not.
So you must keep them at the 200 bob.
Yes.
So they can
need
keep
level.
coming.
Yes.
So that you remain relevant.
Yes.
And I agree with you. 62 years is a long time. And some of us have had the privilege of being around.
Yes.
Over that 62 year.
Yes, Barack, we have.
Period. yes, we have.
Movie we will.
One day.
And one of the benefits of being around is memory. That we can tell this country there was a time when money was not a factor in elections.
It wasn't.
It wasn't.
At all. At all.
We started seeing money in 1983.
Yes.
On a small scale.
Very small, but it started appearing.
What was significant about that time?
What was significant was your character, your ability to lead, your ability to persuade. That we even had politicians on the same platform. They all gathered.
Campaign involved. Everybody was competing for that seat. They all came on the same platform and they spoke to us. Yes.
And after you have spoken, you sit down and you listen as one of your competitors now also speaks and undermines what you have just said.
So it was a debate.
It's a debate.
Yes.
Then the next one would come, and it was a debate out there in the constituency. You finished. The people carried on with the debate. Then you held another rally elsewhere.
Same thing
happened. You'd say now we change the sequence of speakers in this country called Kenya. That happened. In my home constituency, which was the old Dietary constituency, our MP for the longest time was Martin Shikuku. He never gave anybody
a cent,
and he would be voted for overwhelmingly. Here in Nairobi, I lived in my father's house, which was in the old Embakasi constituency. It was one constituency. We did not have this east, west, I don't know, north, south, and whatever. And Mwangi Karungaru did not give anybody any money. In 1983, we started seeing money doing
Actually, what I was asking is what happened that time so that now people started dishing out money?
I think money came with Mzee Moi, who talked about Tumbo ideology as the only ideology that he understood. And there were friends of ours, people like Professor Nyong'o, who are teaching political science at the University of Nairobi. They were being styled as Marxists, pushing Marxist ideology. And President Moi was saying, hii Marxism ni nini, ideology gani? Ideology ile najua ni Tumbo ideology. And there were other politicians like Kariuki Chotara who are saying, hii Kalomako ni nani? Anasumbua watu kwa university. Hii Kalomako hawezi kukamatwa, awekwe detention. Sisi tutatembea tukipatia watu kitu ya kutunza.
Kalomako is Karl Marx.
Yes.
Karl Marx, Kalomako.
I was asking for a movie.
Thank you.
But remember, you asked a question. Let me just add on to what Baraka said, which is actually true. 83 followed the 1982 coup attempt. Now, understand that the constitution we had then gave the president very many powers. He was not outside the law if he detained you. He didn't need to go to court. They just determined, they take you, you are detained. The president also had powers to give land. It had started the previous government. The government had a lot of land, and there was the idea that you needed to give people land to develop.
Yes.
So you could apply and you would be given land, just so that you know. Okay? This grabbing that we're talking about came much later. After 82, what Barack refers to was an attempt by a president to contain what he considers was unrest, because around that same time is when there was an all-out to keep distributing land, first of all to people in the military, major and above. People got decent tracts of land. That is when you'll find people who are in position of authority would go to KCB. You were able to get a loan to do whatever it is you wanted to do. This was the attempt to ensure that you stabilize your position. Every president we've had has done that to some degree. It's just that the format differs. It becomes more visible with this government when you look at the cronism that takes place. There's a phrase for it, it's called crony capitalism. Where you bring in people. It's not new. It's just a continuation of something that we thought we had left behind. Uhuru Kenyatta had it. It starts by bringing in people who are close to you. These people may have some form of expertise, but very rarely is it expertise that actually fits that thing adequately. So, but we couch it in saying we want to bring in people from the private sector. That's sometimes a huge mistake, because the way government works is very, very different from the private sector. And for government to work well, that continuity needs to be there by people who actually understand how this thing works. But the moment you interfere with it, then you have a problem, because the people who actually know what to do, director downwards, they never seem to go anywhere. This new PS has to work with these people. They will sabotage you every each way, and you will not know what's coming to you.
That's why early on we spoke about non-democratic meritocracy, that when people are being admitted to the civil service in the lower ranks, you get the sharpest tools in the shade. Like the Kenya military has done it very well. When you look at their intake, they've got two levels of intakes where they take cadets for the commissioned officers and non-commissioned officers. Now those cadets, I think right now, to qualify to go to the Kenya Military Academy or the National Defense University, you must be among the sharpest students. And then you grow up the rank, so that by the time you are becoming maybe a service commander, you've got peer respect. Everybody knows that you have what it takes to run that position. That's non-democratic meritocracy. Now, the biggest challenge we have is not even that non-democratic meritocracy. It's this other one, the democratic meritocracy. Where, like you remember not long time ago, Dr. Fred Matiang'i gave a warning. There are a number of the people who presented themselves for election have been associated with wash drugs, and we went ahead and elected them into office. And you expect these guys...
Do you know them?
To go... I know them, but I don't have a capacity to retain lawyers. So, you know that these people, you can't even trust them with your mobile phone when you're at a restaurant. But you give him a position of authority. You ask him to be in charge of your NCD... Sorry, your... I don't know whether it's NCDF, CDF...
NGCDF.
Yeah, in charge of billions. For some reasons, Kenyans are very rational human beings for 4.5 years. Right now, every Kenyan knows who we are supposed to elect into office. But as soon as we approach August 2027, is when we remember, oh, my name is Mbuvi. I'm supposed to be loyal to the Kamba Nation. My name is Mokua. I'm supposed to be loyal to the Kisii Nation. So you elect people who may even have capacity and competence, but they don't have a character. What Siti Muga said about the Kenyan constitution, when President Moi was in office, the same constitution Moi had is the same constitution Kibaki had. Same constitution, but two different personalities. Why don't we get the best people? There's a group from my village called Kisii and Kuria Professionals. They're trying to work on what we're talking about. That they want to introduce democratic meritocracy and abandon the idea of giving people money. Because this money you are giving, it's not as if that you sold fish for a profit and then you're giving to the people. No, these are actually taxpayer resources that you've looted. So under the chairmanship of Sam Nyamoya, they're trying to tell people that if anybody coming for office, look at their track record and see whether they've got character, number one, capacity and competence. And if you do that, then you'd have people like Professor Muluka and his political party having a fighting chance. But under the current, the obtaining environment, I'm sorry to inform Professor Muluka that his party will go nowhere.
This must the issue.
Why?
The issue is that
if we don't place a premium on character, capacity, and competence,
you have not asked me about my party and why. Why, in spite of the environment and the obvious asinine nature of it, I would still go into that formation of a political party. We must have some parties that just distinguish themselves as parties of ideas. Parties that are going to equip people with the ideological armory that they need. Things that they must know about even as they make their decisions. And sometimes it's good enough to know that we educated the people. The decisions that they made, what they did with the education that we gave them remains up to them. But future generations must never think that all of us were mad. They must know that there was some sanity, and we want to represent that sanity. Later on, I'll be inviting all of you to join this party because you sound to me like people we should be working with. And the country must have parties as political formations that mobilize not just people, but that mobilize thinking. Sasa usitulize tuko na pesa ngapi, hatuna.
Nataka tuulizana hapo kwa pesa daktari. CJ Maraga has been going around the country, and one thing he told coast youths is that once he reaches them, they shouldn't expect money. They should expect the ideas that are in his mind. Hakuna fair. And a lot of people are, a lot of those places is going to, he's finding some kind of, what is it called? Friction. Because of that no fair policy.
Yes.
What does that mean for the future of politicians who actually want to vie for positions, but they're unable to give this bus fare to the people that actually came to listen to them?
It means that they must not give up. It means that they should not be overly obsessed with the thought of being elected. In fact, that obsession with being elected is fundamentally at the core of our chaos today, our miasma. That you find a president who makes being re-elected a matter of life and death. You find governors who think if they are not elected, they had better be dead. And sometimes people will go out actually to kill, just so that they maybe, people go out to kill. What happened to Msando? Somebody must have killed him because they thought he stood between them and the victory that they were yearning for. We know about a lady in Meru who was fed on human waste because her opponents thought that she was such a big threat to them in the year 2007. We know about the same Meru where there was an MP who was called Karimi, I think that was her name, one of the very few who are elected to parliament in the 70s. And you know what they did to her. Yeah, so we must demystify being elected. We must know that if you're not elected today, maybe you'll be elected some other time. But we must build political parties that believe in something that represent hope and that can be passed on to new generations.
What happened to Karimi?
Karimi was demonized by Meru MPs. They dragged her through the court system. They vilified her. They got into her private spaces. And eventually it was not like something she should have even gotten involved with.
Okay. Dismas, what does that say about the average voter and the specific voter who is asking for bus fare? Because if I am coming to sell my manifesto, my ideas to the constituents or the Kenyans, and I have to give them fare, yet I am just a simple person, I do not have billions in my account, but I feel like I can actually lead my constituency or my country. But the people that I'm going to talk to wananiambia kama una fare bana usituongeleshe, wewe ishia.
When they say that democracy is very expensive, the majority of people don't appreciate the cost of that democracy. Because if you're talking about the ideal political environment or the utopian political environment, is that the people Maraga had invited would actually pay for their movements, and then before the end of the meeting, they would actually make a collection. Now, because we may have used your own resources to come here, let's give you money for your logistics or travel and accommodation. But that one does not happen in most parts of the world. There are Maraga was very lucky that the only thing they wanted from him was fare.
What else would they want?
Others would ask for standing allowance. Others would ask for sitting allowance. Others would expect tea and mandazi. So he's actually, he should count himself to be a very lucky man that they only wanted fare. In other political rallies, people will not leave
until
first of all, one of the incentives for them to come is that there's going to be food. That's why in most of the political rallies there's a lot of food. But if there's no food, then people wanapatiwa pesa waende kununua lunch kwingine, and that is something that we must run away from, because under normal circumstances people are supposed to be elected based on their ideas, and that is how Barack Obama got elected. Because you recall when you read the history of Barack Obama, that at some stage his credit card was rejected many times. Even after the campaign, he discovered that he had worn the same pair of shoes for days on end. But people fell in love with his ideas. They said this gentleman has got character, capacity, and competence. So maybe Maraga needs to reconfigure his campaign and create that hope that I represent your interests and aspirations, and then maybe people will start giving him support.
But how do you do that? In this Kenyan system, let me call it that, because for years and years since 1983, like Dr. here was saying, watu wamezoea kupatiwa
wamezoea na sisi kama media because I have worked in the media for some time. In fact, starting the same 1983 was when I began working for the Voice of Kenya. Sisi media, we have contributed very significantly to the entrenchment of that model. In the 80s, 90s, we would do profiles, what were called constituency profiles.
Yes.
And for a period of something like 12 months, we are just looking at the provinces, at the districts, at the constituencies, and giving profiles and doing scenario building. We would get somewhere in Kisii, for example, and we would look at
Dr. Z. Onyonka or Lawrence Agini.
Okay. There was one particular constituency, I think it was
Andrew Manga.
Nyaribari Chache.
It was actually Nyaribari then before division. Andrew Manga.
No, then it must have been Kitutu Chache, because it had people like Simeon Nyachai.
That is Nyaribari.
Nyaribari. Yeah. It had people like Simeon Nyachai, people like Jared Kangwana, and other giants.
Andrew Manga.
And we were looking at them in terms of their estates. And we were writing things like, this person has got such a financial muscle that if he mobilizes the financial muscle, his and the families, then he will be impossible to beat. We would go to some other constituency and we'd say, oh, this one is a good person, he has got the character, he has got the competence, he has got all the 3 C's, but he doesn't have money, and therefore his chances are very slim. We were entrenching that model in the voters' psyche, and we continue to do that even today.
Actually, to buttress his point, because I come from that constituency, Dr. Z. Onyonka and Lawrence George Sagini, also doctor, they were not elected on the basis of their bank balances, but because of their intellectual capital. In fact, Dr. Z. he became an MP, I think, at the age of 29. And it was simply because of his intellectual infrastructure. And people in that constituency, in as much as then were accused of taking a lot of Busa and Changa, but they said...
Were the accusations false?
They were false, and we're actually planning suits, because that was character assassination, the entire region, yeah, which we find unacceptable. So we have issues with the historical injustices. Yeah, so these gentlemen were elected to office because of that capacity.
I'll not say anything.
But now, can you imagine that despite the warnings you were given, there are maybe somebody who scores an A in impunity, an A in mediocrity, and an A in corruption, is the one you expect to read a finance bill at the National Assembly and apply his mind, understand zero rating, understand VAT, understand income tax. Can you imagine that is the person that is supposed to understand what has happened at the UNGA meeting, to interpret what Donald Trump said, to understand that maybe Kenya was the only country whose head of state met with Marco Rubio, despite all the other heads of states were there, but Marco Rubio made time for President Ruto. That Kenya has gone to Haiti. What are the merits and demerits? Can you imagine that somebody whose core competence is this thing you call, do you call it wash?
Wash.
Yeah, wash. Is now a member of the finance committee, and you want to talk about money laundering in Kenya. This goes back to that agency conflict, because this person who is a beneficiary of money laundering, you expect him to come with a piece of legislation to stop money laundering.
But impossible. You see, this is where I was saying, everything you say is absolutely correct, and we know it. The members of parliament will not hold each other to account. That won't happen. It's a gang, okay? The public who are supposed to hold them to account don't.
You re-elect them.
No, but in fact, every time I hear parliamentarians talking about how it is, there is this capture by State House. It's utter nonsense. State House doesn't elect you. You sell that birthright that you're given by, you sell it. It is not taken. You accept to be in the position that you are in.
Although another perspective to that, we are told up to 90% of members of parliament don't get re-elected. So then what does that mean? That when Kenyans are given an opportunity to come with a new set of leaders, we still go with people with the same denominator?
Actually, no. Look, some of these people who are elected, on the face of it, have promise. They even have a track record you can look at and say this guy has a good track record. Then they get into parliament.
So they give us fake promissory notes?
No, I don't think so.
They mean well.
I don't think they give us, you put it well, I don't think they are lying to you. They are people, it's not as though we lost our minds. We actually look at individuals and we feel this person has worked with us well. But if you listen to a lot of the things that they do, they tell you the obvious about what is wrong. Very few of them come up with solutions. The members of parliament, the leaders you spoke of in your neck of the woods, my friend, the reason why they were heralded, they did a heck of a lot for their people. Making sure that people went to study, making sure this happened. Some of them even built units in their own homes to accommodate people who would come from shags to come and stay there before you went wherever you're going. Some even got land and gave a good portion of it to people from the community. Meaning, they definitely and definitively were interested in ensuring that those people benefit. Now, when the politics of money comes in, it doesn't just muddy the waters, it transforms that whole thing. So now what you're dealing with are a confused lot of people who know that this person is actually good, but then they're also moral people. So when they've taken money, they feel they cannot now vote for this other person, and yet they know very well because they've taken the money. Unless you're saying we sear our consciences completely, so we don't really care. Now, this preaching of taking money, I remember in my neck of the woods, because the government of the time did not allow people to gather, people would come to funerals. And funerals is where I first heard, because this one I heard.
Yes.
The concept of taxpayer. And they'd say, excuse me, this money is your money, just take it. They didn't see what they were creating. And then it became that money is Kanu money, so just take it. Now, that got entrenched. People expected to be given money over time. So it didn't really matter. That scenario that you painted played right into this. People were already poor. Policies to uplift them out of the poverty did not exist among these leaders. And these are the things that they were telling people. It made for a short reprieve and it seemed to benefit, but the long-term consequences are the ones we're dealing with. And in addition to this, the politics where now hooliganism became a growth industry, where somebody wants to be elected, they had better have an entire gang of ruthless thugs who can beat everybody else into smithereens. Those two came together and they haven't left us.
There's something that
my mother sang, they called them a chuma.
There's something you said that they mean well, these individuals that we vote, and then they eventually become something else once they're in power. What happens?
You know, and allow me once again to cite an authority. Hannah Arendt, who was a German American philosopher, discussed something that I've recently written about, which she named the banality of evil. And Arendt spent time trying to understand the mind of the perpetrators of the Nazi atrocities in Germany during the Big War, World War II, 1939-1945. And she could see that there was a sense in which people were doing certain things not out of wickedness, but because of what they were going to immediately gain from that which they did. So you'd be told to pound someone, to kill them, or to do whatever, gas them in the chambers, and fellows did that. MPs, politicians will come and study a situation, an environment, and there will be those who really believe, as Dismas does here, and as you seem to do, that change is inevitable. And they even see themselves as agents of change. They mean well. Then they'll get into that environment and they'll start discovering that the landscape is very different. First, it's you, the electorate. You are used to certain things. You are wired in a certain manner, you believe that there's money which this person is being paid, and that money is yours. When the MP comes back to the constituency, you expect handouts. People come with legitimate needs and with illegitimate needs alike. There are those who believe, and you don't even need to be an MP, you need just go to the countryside. I don't know what it is like in Ukambani, but I know for sure that in Luoland, where City comes from, even himself, just at the local marketplace, the fellows there will tell him, Gonywa.
Set us free.
Set us free.
Release us.
Release us. If you go home and you have a funeral like I had last weekend, there will still be people who are asking you for handouts.
To set them free.
To set them free. And you tell them that I'm focused on this funeral. I've lost my relative. In fact, you're the one who should be helping me. They tell you, even in a funeral, people eat. We still wash our hands and eat. So that is point number one. Point number two is that people then get there and they find that there's a client, a patron rather, who is willing to make you their client. And you saw how the current patron moved very quickly into the Jubilee spaces. In no time, people who had been demonizing William Ruto were now shouting his name from rooftops. They quickly ran away from Uhuru Kenyatta, disowned him, told him to go into retirement, and even took him to court that he was interfering with affairs of their political party. There's a new boss, and because they have encountered the realities on the ground, they need money. They look at the pay slip, the money is looking good at the top, and then there's the car loan, there's a house loan, there's I don't know what, so many other things, and 10,000 Kenya shillings begin looking attractive. They will start looking very material, as Dismas says. So instead of this person changing the environment changes him. You try now to call him, he does not pick your calls because he has so many of those headaches. So we have got to get back to the electorate, and this is where the youth quake that I was talking about earlier on comes in. If indeed the youth are being genuine, because we have seen some of them also being bought very quickly. We saw some of them cutting across the country this month, including from the Gusii Highlands. They were showing us what was not happening. They were showing us where money had been stolen and squandered. And then they seem to have been bought. There were others who are waxing eloquence in three-piece suits with extra pieces in their pockets, and they were also taken away. But if the youth actually are sincere, that
like the one who were with Maraga over the weekend,
yes, then
and demanded fair.
Well, today IEBC has started voter registration, ongoing voter registration. Do you think this month we're going to see an increase in the number of voters, a significant increase, not one or two people who, do you think that people are going to take this exercise seriously?
The probability of that happening is extremely high, and one would easily say that it's almost 100%, because majority of the unregistered people participated in the demonstrations a few days ago, and now they know the power of their votes.
Yes.
They know that if you're a registered voter, then you're going to implement change. But the question is whether or not they're going to remain loyal to national
creed,
and
to the
public
belief.
interest, and to the belief, so that when we go to the election, then they will not become victims of the Stockholm syndrome. They don't become victims of the resources. They don't go back to tribal cocoons, because during the demonstration they said tribeless, partyless, everything
but
else.
this must.
But again, as just a second, as Professor has indicated, a number of the ones who were seen to be the leading lights of these movements, after considerations pecuniary or otherwise, they changed their position. And again, you see there is the assumption that the Gen Z that is actually homogeneous. I can venture and say that a Gen Z, say, in Karen, is not the same Gen Z in Muthaiga.
Absolutely.
And the same in Kisii. And even a Gen Z at my home called Mosocho is not the same Gen Z at a place called Mwembe. They've got different interests and aspirations and different beliefs. So there's a group, the ones like...
So there's nothing common about them and elections come 2027?
Maybe it's the age group. There are, I feel like Professor A will say that they're going to fight for these ideals, which are very close to a utopian thinking, but the others who are saying, huyu ni mtu wetu. Don't you remember during the election of a governor, people were told that some of these governors have actually stolen your resources. They said mtu wetu.
Mwizi wetu.
Yeah, mwizi wetu. There is that popular, I don't know whether it's a book or a movie where somebody steals from the rich, then it takes to the poor.
Robin Hood.
Yeah, Robin Hood, and he's made the king. We're even told that some...
He didn't become king, but...
Yeah, we're even told that there are some members in the National Assembly who have since been stripped of leadership position, that are when they're chair of powerful committees, they make sure that they allocate resources to their constituencies. There are the constituencies, according to members of the National Assembly, there's a tarmac everywhere, there's street light everywhere. They were even running adverts on national televisions about what they've done. Yeah, but going back to what Muluka said, that they mean well, but in my view, in as much as people say it's the thought which counts, but Kenyans want to look at the scoreboard. Whether or not you mean well, in my view, is immaterial.
Right.
We want to see the outcome. If you go to the National Assembly and you know this is your salary, and you know that for you to stay afloat, maybe there's a mortgage, or I don't know, there's a grant, all those kind of things, then you need to be wise from a financial perspective to ensure that you can actually live within your...
This much.
Yeah.
That is utopian. That thing.
No, that is the utopian I'm talking about.
Because we are all villagers, chief. Okay? When you get into politics, you become even more of a villager than you were before, because you cannot be standoffish, you can't be aloof. You have to be a mwananchi. It takes a great strength of character to be able to be that villager who actually is willing to lose the votes, but to tell people, folks, this is not the way to go.
So let me cut you short. So where is Georgia Nyona? Where is I don't know you pronounce it in French, Jean-Marie Seroney?
But
where are they?
That was the reference point that Muluka was talking about.
Yes.
Where we were
before we drew the line.
Yes, that's where we were, and this is what many of these young people don't know about.
So we can't retrace our steps.
We can. Look, these young people you speak of, every political party has a youth league. So there are young people who are already in these political parties. Whether it is Wiper, whether it is ODM, whether it is Jubilee, whether it's UDA, they all have a youth league. The last demonstrations we have here, the people who are thwacking people in the streets were youth. Okay? So this hope that we have in the youth will only materialize if you are able to get them to understand the futility of the ways they are following, and to understand just the strength of change that is within them if they actually understand what it is. That the very things that they want to achieve will not be achieved by what they're doing, but by them doing something different. Now, that requires character, because the truth is most people prefer to go the tide. What we're advocating for is swimming against the tide. Most people are not willing to swim against the tide.
Let me read a few comments here before we leave. We have about 2 minutes. Mohammed Murunga says, thanks Barack for reminding us of the good old days. Money was never a factor in elections. Candidates debate each other on the same platform. How I wish we could go back to that model. My Tech 2.0 says, we can't exonerate ourselves from all this mess. We always pointing blame to others, yet we don't see our own contribution to the mess. Leaders are a reflection of the people. They don't come from Mars. Sonette is asking, will a hungry stomach stop taking the 200 bob? Good question. Then, Star Kenya says, Kenyans are not stupid or simplistic as you think. They are just waiting for an opportunity that will be a spark that will set them off. No one knows the time nor the hour, but it's coming. All right, money ain't gonna leave politics. That is delusional. So gentlemen, I'll give you 1 minute each to conclude this conversation.
Let's start with Professor.
Yeah. All right,
as tradition demands.
Okay.
The professor usually has the last word.
Right.
But let's
The student has thrown it back to you.
let me go.
Right.
Yeah. I think we must never lose hope in our country. We must never lose hope in ourselves. And we have seen what I could call a tremor, the youth tremor, which if properly nurtured, can be canalized into the correct paths and correct spaces to mature into a youth quake that then starts taking the country to the correct direction. And I think the youth have no choice anyway, because the successive dispensations have never planned for them. They have never thought that they were going to include them. And the time is now. The registration of voters begins, I believe, today. So let them go out there and register in huge numbers and let their vote make a difference. In any event, the country belongs to them. If City and I have been here these 62 years, then it means that where we are
62 plus
62 plus actually in my case. For City is
Yes, it's also plus.
for City is 62
Plus.
mine is 62 plus. It means that the distance remaining for us to cover is shorter than the distance that we have covered. And so the youth, it's up to you. The ball is in your court.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Now you have 40 seconds.
Yeah, picking from that, I think the reason why we must all register as voters, you'd find even people who are 62 but they're not registered voters.
Yeah.
So they must register as voters, because that vote will give every Kenyan capacity to punish impunity, mediocrity, and corruption, and also give them capacity to reward meritocracy. It's only by embracing that meritocracy, democratic and non-democratic, that we will make progress. But the buck stops with President Ruto. And I'll keep on discussing this thing called the agency conflict till the cows come home. That is the reason why Kenya is not making good progress, because majority of these people we elect to public office, they take that office as a factor of production. You hear all of them saying, nipatie office where I can make money. Not to make money for Mura and Nyambura.
For themselves.
Yeah, so that agency conflict, he must crack it, and he has to begin with parastatus, because there he's got absolute powers to crack the whip.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. That's all we have for today. But as usual, we invite you back here. Let's get this conversation going. City, unasemaje? Sisi tunasema kwa heri.
Ni sawa kabisa bwana.
Hadi kesho.
Kwanza shukrani sana.
Naam.
Thank you very much for honoring the invite. We hope to ask you to come back again.
All right.
Asante.
See you tomorrow, inshallah.
Radio generation, the sound is fine. Pump it up, turn it high all the time. Let the music move you, let's sway. Radio G's got your jam all day.
Radio Generation, the home of urban soul. This is the Radio Generation News.
Good morning, I'm Winnie Maganga. The Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union has directed all Kiambu County interns to collect their redeployment letters from the Ministry of Health starting today, September 29th, 2025. The move follows a 4-month